Happy Monday. Thank you for joining us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Carlene Bragg is here in studio with
Hi,
me.
Nick.
How are you doing this morning?
How
Or
are
this
you?
afternoon? Not this morning. This
Afternoon.
afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. So a little sore. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later. But we have a lot to get to. Carlene and I were in here on Sunday afternoon, keeping you covered on the latest when it comes to Border Patrol operations here in the Charlotte area. Here's what we know now, and I encourage you to go to our digital platforms, our website, our mobile app, and you're doing a great part right now
Sticking
with us here on WCNC Plus, here on Live Impact News. But let me update you. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol announced agents arrested over 130 people during the first 2 days of immigration enforcement operations in Charlotte. A spokesperson with the Department of Homeland Security released the following statement. I'm going to read part of it. Quote, during the first 2 days of Operation Charlotte's Web, Border Patrol arrested over 130 illegal aliens who have all broken the immigration laws of our country. It goes on to say criminal records of those arrested include known gang membership, aggravated assault, possession of a dangerous weapon, felony larceny, simple assault, hit and run, possession of stolen goods, shoplifting, DUI, DWI, and illegal reentry after prior deportation, a felony. So look, we are in the process right now doing our due diligence, fact checking, going through a lot of this information. I know Greg Ravino, the commander of Border Patrol, who has been posting on X updates and actually pictures of people that have been detained and put into custody. We're verifying all of those, all that information as we speak. But that is that statement from the Department of Homeland Security. Speaking of verify, we have Megan Bragg here in studio. She is verifying. You're busy today.
Yeah.
And one of the first, Carlene and I played this. Obviously, we had it live on Saturday. But we replayed it yesterday because we got a statement from Department of Homeland Security of the man on South Boulevard Willie Aceituno.
Yeah, Aceituno, Willie
his
Aceituno.
window smashed out during that
Yeah.
interaction.
I actually have a picture of it. Hold on. Let me pull it
Do we
up
have a
for you
picture
right
of it?
here. Boom.
There we go. So
Yeah.
that is what we shot and what we saw on Saturday. And that
Yeah.
was one of the first reported operations that we heard of this
Right.
weekend. You're verifying what went down. Talk about what you're looking into.
Yeah, so basically that happened. Miles Harris was on that scene. We were able to get it first right here on WCNC Plus. You guys did a great job keeping everybody informed. One question that kept popping up was, we heard from him saying that, he said he was trying to distract them from people. He went in and got his breakfast. He said that they were chasing two people who were supposedly here illegally. And when he got back into his car, 3 more Border Patrol agents came up to him. They were asking him about his citizenship. Basically, there was an altercation. And they broke his window. Now, Border Patrol says that he was acting erratically and didn't respond to the commands. He refused to the commands, and that's why they did what they needed to do. But a lot of people from that were asking, who's responsible for paying, property damage, right? So if Border Patrol comes up, you're an American citizen, and they smash your window or whatever, or property or damage, whatever, who's responsible for that? So our sources that we are using for this is the Federal Torts Claim Act. And we are also talking to Attorney Gary Monty later this afternoon around 3 o'clock. So I don't have his official word about this, but I did look into the Federal Torts Act, Claims Act. And basically what it says is the Department of Homeland Security says that people can file a claim for property damage, loss, personal injury, or death resulting from actions from a Border Patrol agent. So that person would have to file an administrative torts claim against the agency. However, it's to the agency. So the agency's legal team would look into this. So, yeah. So basically what you would have to do is you would have to provide them with information, documents, statements, anything that you do have to the agency. They'll look over it, say yes or no. The agency has 6 months to investigate this. That's according to the Federal Torts Claim Act to say if it's true or false, or if they're going to give you any money for it. So he was claiming that his window was going to be around $700, cost around $700. So it's kind of like who pays for that,
Right.
and it would be under whatever they come up with in this claim if he puts it forward to the Department of Homeland Security.
I was about to ask a question, but I didn't know if you were going to answer that question.
Yeah.
I'll let you finish.
Okay, no. Yeah, go ahead. Ask me a question.
Okay. How long does that take? I mean, it sounds like you're filing a claim with your insurance company.
So you have to file a claim through
Yeah.
the Federal Torts Claims Act, through the Department of Homeland Security.
Like similar like you would do with your insurance company.
Sure.
Okay.
They have 6 months to investigate it and say yes or no. So the
Okay.
Federal Torts Act gives them 6 months. Like they can't take 3 years to investigate it, right?
But 6 months is, 6
6 months
that's
is
a while.
a lengthy while. Also, too, hearing what Border Patrol had to say back, it would be hard to,
Right.
in this case, you don't know how they would say, but if they're saying that he refused commands, that's their take on that. So that's how people would go through this. Now, can you sue them? Absolutely. You can sue anybody, right? Like legal process, you can sue anybody. However, I did look this up as well. The Supreme Court has several rulings that make it hard to sue federal agents, for example, violating Constitution rights. So it is very difficult to win in these cases, but I'm going to talk to Gary Monty a little bit more about that, have a little bit more understanding about that, but that's the process that you would have to go through. So the question is, who pays? Well, it depends.
It depends. Yeah, it's a lengthy process.
Right.
Once you file that claim.
Yes.
Oh
Absolutely.
wow. Meg. Again, you're speaking with lawyer Gary Monty later. So when can folks catch your story? I know.
I'm prepared for you today, Nick. 6:15, and I do have to say too, if people have more questions, because I am seeing recently on the screen, there are so many things being thrown out into the universe right now. I mean, watching even national news, news, you see things being said, and it's like I'm looking at this and I'm like, what, Charlotte? Like, you know what I'm saying? They've never been here. They don't know our community like we know the community, right? And so if people do have questions, make sure to tune into us. Ask us, watch
That's why we're
local.
here.
That is why we're here. We serve your community. We're on the ground. We are in these areas. We've been here. So really, I would suggest to people to keep it here.
Yeah, we
because
live here.
we live here. We know it. We're in the community.
We work here, we live here, we
Some
do- yeah.
things that are being thrown around right now are really insane.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's important to continue to bring it back down, because I know that right now there's a lot of angst from a lot of different areas, right? So just take a breath. Make sure to do your due diligence as well, and to not take everything, so literally, and do your own searching yourself if you really.
I mentioned before we got to you, we're going to fact check information from
Yeah.
whatever side, or
Absolutely.
wherever it comes from, right?
That's our job.
When it comes down to when people email us about operations, when it comes to what the Department of Homeland Security, Border Patrol, they put out, we're going to verify everything. We're going to give you the facts here. And so that's what we're doing. Again, like you mentioned, this is our community.
Right.
So, this is our job to give you the information that you need to hear, but it's also that it's accurate.
And you
So,
deserve to hear. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying? I mean, we're doing our due diligence here.
Yeah.
And we are looking into everything. So, and I think it's very important to know what's going on and not get so hype.
Yeah.
And really know the facts of everything.
Well, you're doing incredible work, Meg. We had a very good discussion in our morning meeting as far as game planning, our coverage. Meg, again, 6:15. Thank you for stopping by
Yeah,
the studio. I'm sure we'll see you throughout the
me
week. All right, Meg, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Carlene is also here in studio with me. Before we go any further, we want to get a check of that forecast because it's another beautiful day outside. Let's check in with meteorologist Majestic Storm.
Gorgeous all throughout the weekend. Yesterday we nearly hit 80 degrees, so I can't promise you temperatures getting that warm, but we get to at least hold on to sunny skies as we are easing into our new work week. 61 degrees right now in the Queen City, not even a single cloud in the sky. It is gorgeous. Another live camera. This one's coming in from Beach Mountain. You can see a little bit of leftover snow, but not a whole lot, that's for sure. And even nicer conditions as we're heading through areas like Dallas, where again, nice and clear. If you want to go for a hike or a walk today, today's going to be a perfect day to do that. Anything outside, really. Yesterday was kind of on the warm side. If you were outside for an extended amount of time, it got kind of warm. I mean, 79 degrees is where we topped off for our Sunday high. And today, while we are still above our average, we're going to feel that difference. 66 for our high. At least it's still going to be very nice. Little breezy as we're heading into tomorrow. We're going to be watching for elevated fire danger at times because of all the ingredients that are in place. If a fire was to start, it could spread rapidly, especially as those winds start to pick up tomorrow. We'll talk more about that, but then by Wednesday, let me tell you, if you liked yesterday's forecast, we have another day just like it. Plan for that on Wednesday. We're bringing back that warmth. Today in the mountains, it's beautiful. 48 degrees for your high there in Banner Elk. Out towards Blowing Rock, 50 degrees. 51 out there in Boone. And as we're looking towards the foothills, again, mainly low to mid 60s with clear sunny skies. A little warmer as we're heading right around the Charlotte metro area. Gastonia, 66 for you and Shelby. And then let's head to the south just a bit more, right around the same. 65 in Chester and 66 there in Lancaster. Overnight tonight, remember the sky is going to stay clear. That means tomorrow morning for our Tuesday, it's going to be kind of cold. Heading out the door into the 30s. We have some spots that'll be nearing that freezing mark. Out there towards Salisbury, you could even dip down below freezing tonight. 33 for Wadesboro, so if you have any outdoor pets, make sure they're properly taken care of. After we get through Tuesday morning, we start to see those overnight lows that really become very mild with several nights and early mornings really into the 50s, so really going to be pleasant as we're heading into the later half of our work week. And honestly, that's kind of just setting the tone for what's to come. 66 for our high today, nearing 70 tomorrow, and then all of a sudden, Wednesday rolls around and we'll see a high of 76 degrees. So we're bringing back that warmth. It is going to be a little breezy at times, but those winds are going to be pumping in that warm air from the southwest, and you can see how those temperatures really respond. So instead of feeling like a typical November day, we'll have multiple days in a row where it actually feels like October with multiple days into the 70s, and then we eventually start to see more 60s, but overall our whole week looks quiet. We have nice clear skies all across the Carolinas as we switch it over to our satellite and radar. High pressure firmly in place, but watch this system mainly to the north of us from Cincinnati up towards Cleveland. That's early on, actually it's in the afternoon on Tuesday afternoon, but it tries to get to our area. However, it doesn't do a great job. It breaks apart. Now, if you're in the mountains, we can't rule out that you don't get a few stray sprinkles, but for the most part, we're going to stay dry all the way until this weekend and possibly leading up to Thanksgiving. That's where we could see some more active weather move in, and then eventually a significant cool down to finish out the month of November. Little breezy as we're heading into tomorrow. Keep that in mind. And there's that Jerry Hahn Supercenter 7-day forecast. Lots of sunshine, very quiet weather, but really on the warm side with 76 returning as soon as Wednesday.
And that is a check of your full forecast. So again, we have been following for about a week now, the report of Border Patrol coming to the Charlotte area. Then as they arrived and operations got underway, we have been keeping you covered with the latest and most up-to-date information as it comes down. Again, I want to recap our latest, and I implore you to check out our website and our digital platforms for the latest updates, and also here on Live Impact News. But here's what we have on our website. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol announced agents arrested over 130 people during the first 2 days of immigration enforcement operations in Charlotte. A spokesperson with the Department of Homeland Security released the following statement, and I'll read part of this. Quote, during the first 2 days of Operation Charlotte's Web, Border Patrol arrested over 130 illegal aliens who have all broken the immigration laws of our country. Criminal records of those arrested include known gang membership, aggravated assault, possession of a dangerous weapon, felony larceny, simple assault, hit and run, possession of stolen goods, shoplifting, DUI, DWI, and illegal reentry after prior deportation, a felony. We will not stop enforcing the laws of our nation until every criminal illegal alien is arrested and removed from our country. Again, that is a statement from the Department of Homeland Security. They released that earlier. And just in full transparency, we have reached out to Senator Ted Budd's office, Republican Senator Ted Budd's office, to see if we can hear from him. According to his office, not available today because of a busy schedule, which is understandable, but we are coordinating right now with his office to make something work soon, make something happen soon so we can have him on the show and talk to him. We've also reached out to Congresswoman Alma Adams. Have we heard back from Alma Adams' camp?
I don't think we have. We are working to get her tomorrow morning. Ben and Lisa, during Ben and Lisa's show
Okay.
on the stream on WCNC Plus here.
So, working to get Congresswoman Alma Adams. We've also reached out to Congressman Ralph Norman, Republican, represents the Rock Hill, South Carolina area. He will be on the show tomorrow afternoon
Yes.
in the 2 o'clock hour.
Yes.
And so we will hear from him. We've also heard from Congressman Norman before Border Patrol got here. We heard from him late last week. He says he's in support of Border Patrol coming here to the Charlotte area. So we will check in with Congressman Ralph Norman to get his thoughts and just to ask him some questions that community members are having.
We want to make sure all voices are heard.
We want to make sure all voices are heard in this situation. And we also have reached out to GOP and more GOP and more Democratic leaders, either with the county, city, state, federally. We have reached out to a bunch of people. So I just want to be as transparent as possible that we are trying to get all voices heard here on WCNC Plus. So we are doing our due diligence here. In just the last couple of hours, we've heard from former North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper. He pushed out a statement on X. He's also running for Senate next year during the midterms. A big race. Let's not listen in. Let me read you what he posted on X. You see it right there on your screen. It says, "I prosecuted violent criminals and fought to keep them behind bars, so I know the importance of using federal resources to deport violent criminals and keep our border strong. But randomly sweeping up people based on what they look like, including American citizens and those with no criminal records, risk leaving violent criminals at large while hurting families and the economy." Again, that is from the office of Roy Cooper, former North Carolina governor, also running for Senate next year during the midterm elections. Again, we continue to hear from folks and we continue to reach out to people because we want to make sure all voices are heard as Border Patrol continues its presence here in the Charlotte area. One of those voices being Representative Aisha Dew. She came here in studio. You probably saw her at the end of our Live Impact News stream in 9 to 11 window. She came in, she stopped by here in studio to share her thoughts. Let's play you that one-on-one with her and Jay Monreal. Let's take a listen in.
So right now, I want to bring in North Carolina Representative of Mecklenburg County, Aisha Dew, here in the Live Impact studio. Thanks for joining us here, Representative Dew. Appreciate your time. And like I said, you know, they were here since Saturday, conducting these operations. It was something you guys already expected as far as the leadership goes. What is your take on what's happening?
Well, we did expect it after we heard about it on Wednesday, of course, but we were given no real detail or clarity. Of course, they're not really working in tandem with our law enforcement. And so it seems as though there's no reasonable factor that really brings them here. I don't think that they have the numbers to make their quotas.
Okay. I mean, I did speak to, over the weekend, GOP Chair Kyle Kirby, just bringing in some more voices about immigration enforcement and crimes that are taking place. He argues Border Patrol making these operations that they're necessary for public safety, to which I said, actual safety numbers or crime numbers, according to CMPD, is down. What is your knowledge as far as, the crime stats and what that means, why Border Patrol chose Charlotte?
Yeah, it's interesting because the only difference between Border Patrol and ICE is that essentially that Border Patrol is supposed to actually patrol borders. So we don't need to be protected from South Carolina, Tennessee, or Virginia. And I don't really think that we need to be protected on the side of Wilmington where the beaches are. So I'm not quite sure. I'm sure we have some people from Rock Hill that come in quite frequently, and they're our neighbors and probably our coworkers.
I mean, so describe then what you think should happen here in the next few days or weeks, as no one knows how long they're going to be here.
I think they need to leave. There's no reason for them to be here. What we've seen since they arrived are levels of chaos, confusion, and violence. A man's window being broken out, right? People are terrified. I've heard from parents and also educators that people are not showing up to school, that little children are very afraid to go to school, and they're not necessarily undocumented. They're just children who are living in a really, really terrifying environment from what's been created.
What advice to give to families who are living in this fear and deep concern for, the potential of being broken up or having their privacy, invaded, and not living their daily lives, not being able to go to a restaurant, church, or the store?
There are organizations like I believe it's the Migrant Network, International House. They've worked with families to come up with a plan in case children come home and their relatives aren't there. Who would be the next person of contact? That's a really scary situation. And I will say, if I'm not mistaken, the guy who had his window actually broken was a U.S. citizen. So this is not being done with a scalpel, it's being done with a hatchet. If this was an actual targeted operation towards violent offenders, that would look very different. So what we need to do is to make sure everyone stays peaceful, stays calm, that people record what's going on, that people continue to alert the press what's going on, and that we support our immigrant-owned businesses for those of us who are free to move.
For those like not North Carolina, but South Carolina Representative Ralph Norman, right, who's also been vocal about this and saying this is a positive thing and good for you, Mecklenburg County. They're just taking off the criminals off the street, and this is actually a good thing. And then again back to Mr. Kirby's sentiment saying that if you are a legal person, if you live here legally, then you have nothing to fear. So is it that cut and dry?
It's not that cut and dry, except being arrested even though you're a legal citizen. I mean, they're not the ones who ask questions first and really work to make sure that you're a citizen. They just make an arrest and ask questions later. It's ready, fire, aim. This is not a real strategy.
And then to the fella whose truck was broken into by his account by Border Patrol agents, by the department. Did you see this from Homeland Security? It said that even though you're an American citizen, you cannot, that is not appropriate behavior. You cannot distract agents from doing their job. That man said that he, admitted to saying that he was trying to distract agents. What do you say to those who are trying to support other people in the area and not interfere with the Border Patrol's work?
It's legal to record, and they don't want you to. Unfortunately, I've seen too much footage where someone was simply recording and they had a gun pointed at their face. So the reality of it is that people are trying to protect their neighbors. I think we've all seen the story of the person who I know who had workers in her yard putting up Christmas lights, and the Border Patrol came and tried to remove them. So the tactics are not good tactics. We don't need the the federal guard here. We don't need anyone here. I know that the FOP called for that, but of course the CMPD chief has not called. That being said, they're trained. These people went into a fair and now they're out on the streets with no training, no level of de-escalation from what I've seen. They most likely are the ones to escalate and move things forward. I'm so glad for those who do like the Inflation Brigade and the Grandmother's Knitting at the ICE networks. Our people are peaceful. Our people are trying to help their neighbors.
And by all accounts, from Saturday's protests, and I just finished talking to City Councilmember Malcolm Graham. Those protests and march on Saturday, seemed peaceful. Do you anticipate seeing more of these kinds of expressions and protests happening?
I think that people are going to continue to rise up to raise their voices for their neighbors. If that's all that they can do, absolutely. To protest and then to also show up and make sure that their neighbors are safe.
Any hope for communication directly between, city leaders and county leaders with more of the feds?
We'll see what happens. I know from the governor's statement on Wednesday, right? He reached out to the White House and did not have any direct communication. And so I think we'll just see how this goes. I would like to be more hopeful than I can.
All right, North Carolina Representative Aisha Dew, anything else you want us to know or our viewers to know about this situation?
There's no reason for them to be here, and everyone needs to stay peaceful and as positive as we can to keep our community safe.
All right, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming into the Live Impact studio.
All right, so that was that one-on-one from this morning with Representative Aisha Dew. We are going to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Carlene is also here in studio. So we are continuing to keep an eye out and continue to give you the latest updates when it comes to Border Patrol, their presence here in the Charlotte area. Border Patrol has arrested, according to Department of Homeland Security, 130 plus people during its first 2 days of Operation Charlotte's Web. So we are hearing from leaders on both sides of the aisle. Two of those leaders are running for North Carolina Senate next year. One of those leaders, and they posting on X statements in regards to the Border Patrol presence, former Governor Roy Cooper, again, a candidate, former governor and candidate for Senate here in North Carolina in the election next year. He writes on X, quote, "I prosecuted violent criminals and fought to keep them behind bars. So I know the importance of using federal resources to deport violent criminals and keep our borders strong. But randomly sweeping up people based on what they look like, including American citizens and those with no criminal records, risk leaving violent criminals at large or hurting families and the economy." That is a statement from Roy Cooper. We also are hearing from his opponent in that upcoming race next year, Michael Whatley, who was head of the North Carolina GOP, and again, a candidate, Republican candidate for Senate. He responded to Roy Cooper and has released a statement on X. He's posted a couple of things this morning, but we want to get you the latest one. That reads right here on your screen. Not only did Roy Cooper support Joe Biden's open borders agenda, he also encouraged sanctuary city policies and vetoed legislation to help ICE deport criminal illegal aliens like these. And he shows some pictures. We are not going to show those because, again, we have to do our due diligence and go through some of those. But again, this is a statement for Michael Whatley. Again, he is running for Senate. Republican. We also heard, again, we've been hearing different voices, and we want to make sure all voices are heard in this situation as Border Patrol continues its presence here in the Charlotte area. So we heard from Kyle Kirby. He is Mecklenburg County's Republican Party chairman. We spoke with him over the weekend about Border Patrol operations. He says he's heard positive things. And so we want to go now to that interview. He did that one-on-one over the weekend with our very own Jamon Rios. Take a listen into what he had to say.
Kyle, you're a native Charlottean, deeply involved in the community. What is your reaction to the news of Border Patrol operations in the Queen City?
Well, I wonder if our local government elected officials had been stronger on public safety in Charlotte, would Charlotte have taken a center point in the idea that immigration enforcement and Border Patrol needs to come here in the first place? So I've got to question whether or not, if we were more serious about safety for Charlotteans, would we be in the limelight of federal enforcement of Border Patrol and immigration tactics?
Yeah, it's one of those questions where, leaders and constituents and just regular everyday people are asking, why here? You have these big cities, L.A., Chicago, and now Charlotte. Is the administration trying to make a statement of some kind?
Well, Charlotte isn't as small as we think it is. It's actually a larger city than San Francisco. And with all the violence that's been going on in Charlotte across the summer and the 200% increase in murders in the uptown area, we've taken center stage for the unsafe nature in the city of Charlotte. So, I mean, if you're going to be on a national scene for, disorder and streets that people are afraid to walk down, you've got to expect some type of enforcement coming from the federal government.
Sure. With CMPD just releasing their third quarter stats saying that violent crime is actually down, and we're on pace with the size that we are. The argument being that aren't we just kind of falling in line with a normal, everyday big city?
Well, overall, crime might be down, but violent crime in the center of Charlotte is up over 200% since this summer.
So what do you think needs to ease some of the tensions, ensure that public safety is a priority here in Charlotte?
Well, I think our mayor and other civic elected leaders need to take the citizens of Charlotte's safety more seriously, and that would get us out of the federal attention and allow us to do our own work here in the city of Charlotte, and we wouldn't have federal oversight. You may already know that the Fraternal Order of Police has asked for National Guard presence as well as 3 members of Congress. So I'm just thankful at this point that we're only getting border protection and patrol enforcement in Charlotte and not full-on National Guard.
Sure, sure. Yeah, we've heard from Pat Harrigan saying that this is, he's calling for it along with the FOP, and Representative Ralph Norman, of course, out of South Carolina, saying, hey, this is actually a great thing for Mecklenburg County. You obviously agree. And on the other hand, Democrats saying that, we're lacking communication with the federal government, and we can take care of our own. What do you say to that?
Well, if you look at the sheriff's department that's not willing to enforce or work with ICE and Border Patrol, it's no wonder that they're here.
So as far as working with the federal government, and other people are saying that we're not hearing anything. We want to cooperate, but there's no communication. Just let us know who you're targeting. We want to fight crime if there's crime to be had, if indeed there are criminals to be targeted. And so, what can you do now as local officials and leadership to ensure moving forward this is a safe operation?
Well, if you recall when Sheriff McFadden ran against Sheriff Carmichael, one of the key points that Sheriff McFadden said that he was going to do was not cooperate with ICE. So for all the years that Sheriff McFadden has been in office, he has not been cooperating with ICE. So had we been cooperating all along, or better yet, had we done a better job protecting our borders over the last 10 years, would we be in this predicament now? And I think the answer to that is no.
You have some small businesses and have worked in low-income communities. Are you hearing, or what are you hearing from people in those communities about what's happening?
Well, the immigrants to this country that I know are happy that enforcement is going on because they believe that enforcement of our immigration laws upholds the rigorous entry that they had to go through, and it makes the time that they spent trying to come to this country legally, and it makes them feel like those people that have sidestepped the immigration laws that are being picked up now by Border Patrol are people that have lessened the value of the immigration process in which people are required to go through. So generally what I'm hearing is positive things in regard to the Border Patrol presence.
And, I know you emphasize love and compassion for all, and local leaders calling for everybody to stand together. So now, what is your message to Charlotteans?
Well, I think the message to Charlotteans is President Trump ran on a secure the border platform, and right now he is fulfilling on his obligation to the country to secure our borders. And that doesn't necessarily mean just at the ports of entry or just at the borders, but that also means cleaning up the problems that we have allowed to happen over the many years that we have had a unsecure border. And unfortunately, because of an unsecure border under President Joe Biden, we've all become a border state.
And Kyle, I asked this of Commissioner Susan Rodriguez earlier. Now that we're here, now that we're seeing evidence of what's happening, some encounters with some agents, and then the protests, which seems peaceful, how do you move forward here? How do we come together now and make sure that we are, again, feeling safe and staying safe?
Well, I think naturally, we feel for anybody that's impacted by the enforcement of the laws, but regardless of how we feel for them on a personal level, a country is made up of borders and it's made up of laws, and we have to respect those laws in order to respect the sovereignty of the country and the states in which we're a part of. I think if Sheriff McFadden and whoever else may become the next sheriff, I think if we can work together with federal law enforcement, ICE, Homeland Security, Border Patrol, we would see a lot less federal presence in our city.
Kyle, is there anything else our viewers should know to help us understand the situation?
Just that if you are a legal immigrant to the United States, you have nothing to fear. If you are a person that should not be here legally, then I would recommend that you start trying to go through the process to become a legal resident. Don't overstay visas. Make sure that you're doing what you should be doing as a guest here in our country. And remember, immigration and working in this country is a privilege, not a right.
Kyle Kirby, chair of the Mecklenburg GOP, appreciate your time and weighing in on Border Patrol in Charlotte. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we are going to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, so we are continuing our coverage following and give you the updates, the latest updates on Border Patrol's presence here in the Charlotte area. So we talked about this over the weekend during our coverage here on Live Impact News. We talked about Charlotte Bakery closing its doors because of the Border Patrol operation. So a beloved bakery that served the east side of Charlotte for nearly 3 decades is closing its doors. And it's not because of financial trouble, but because of what they're saying, fear of customers' safety. Manolo's Bakery on Central Avenue announced it would temporarily shut down after its owner witnessed people being stopped by Border Patrol agents just steps from the bakery's entrance. So we got a chance to hear from the owner. Let's take a listen into what he had to say just moments ago.
This past Saturday, I was walking here at this avenue, and then these unmarked cars just approach. Just 4 guys jump out from the car and threw pedestrians down to the floor, and all of these people could be customers from my bakery. And then these cars start coming here to my parking lot as well. It's the first time in 28 years that we closed the bakery. The only time that we had closed it was a few hours when the founder passed away in 2014. So I decided not to risk my customers, not to risk my employees, and not risk myself and my family. That could be myself, my wife, or my kids who were working on the streets and they just turned down to the floor like what I saw. So it's too risky, and I don't want to carry in my shoulders the heaviness of maybe a kid to lose their father or their mother because they were on their way to the bakery to get a cake. Yeah, I've been carrying my passport all this year. And nowhere in the Constitution says that as an American citizen I had to carry my passport to show that I'm an American citizen. But because the color of my skin, my race, my accent, and I feel that they are profiling me, and I don't want to go through all this process like we have seen and like what I saw, getting hit on the floor and 10, 20 minutes later, threw me to the street when they realized that they found out I'm an American citizen. If they are renewed and there is like some criminals, why they didn't send the information to the CMPD and to the cops here? Saturday they picked 81 people from the street, and just like 7 of them had like some criminal issues. Why they didn't send the information to our local police enforcement? I think, and I feel this is not just like intimidation and trying to scare us. And a family separation is the biggest thing here. Our children losing their parents or their mothers. Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
And that was the owner of Manolo's Bakery there on Central Avenue, speaking with our colleagues over on CNN, answering questions there during that interview. Again, closing its doors after nearly 3 decades because of what he's saying is out of fear for customer safety, temporarily shutting down. It's because he said he witnessed people being stopped by Border Patrol agents just steps from the bakery's entrance. So we are continuing to cover the latest when it comes to Border Patrol. We are going to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Serderman. Carlene is here. If I'm not looking in the camera, it's because I'm checking messages, refreshing pages to make sure you have the most up-to-date information when it comes to U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, their presence here in the Charlotte area. So far, what we have learned is that they have arrested over 130 people during the first 2 days of immigration enforcement operations in Charlotte. And so that's what we have so far. The operation is called Charlotte's Web. And again, we have reached out, and I just want to be transparent with everyone. We've reached out to Senator Ted Budd, Republican Senator Ted Budd. He says he couldn't make it today because of a busy schedule, but we are working to make something happen soon where we can have him on the show, get his thoughts. We also reached out to Congresswoman Alma Adams, Democrat. We are still waiting to hear back. We're working to get her in the morning for WCNC Plus, our stream in the morning. We've reached out to Congressman Ralph Norman, who we heard from on Friday before Border Patrol got here to the Charlotte area. He will be on the show during the 2 o'clock hour on tomorrow. So you don't want to miss that. He'll be on tomorrow. He says he supports Border Patrol being here in the Charlotte area. And we have reached out to GOP leaders, Democratic leaders from the county, city, state, federal level. One of those leaders from our area, City Councilman Malcolm Graham, who we had on. When did we have Malcolm? We had him
Around 10:30 this morning.
and we had him on this over the weekend, or was that Friday?
We had him on Friday.
Friday, before the Border Patrol
Correct.
presence. So he's been vocal, and so we had him on Friday. We had him back in here well, not in studio, virtually, on Live Impact News. In case you missed it, let's play back what Malcolm Graham, Charlotte City Councilman Malcolm Graham, had to say earlier on our Live Impact News stream.
Bringing back now Charlotte City Council member Malcolm Graham. Thank you, Mr. Graham, for joining us here this morning on Live Impact News.
I'm glad to be here with you again.
Councilman Graham, now that these operations are underway, they began Saturday there at First Ward Park. You were here on Friday as well. Now that they're underway, what are you hearing from residents?
Both are rightfully so afraid, scared, anxious. What's happening on the streets of Charlotte is simply racial profiling. They don't have a list of 10 or 12 bad guys that they're trying to search for or arrest. It's anyone that's brown, that may be a Latino or Hispanic descent, and they're just pulling them over. It's un-American. Obviously, individuals who break the law should be prosecuted, but everyone is due process. And what's happening on the streets of Charlotte, like what happened on the streets of Chicago or Washington or New York, it's just un-American, and people are rightfully so concerned about the behavior of the Border Patrol officers.
On Friday, you called their deployment politically motivated. Now that the operations again are underway, anything change that or reinforcing that?
It's just a reinforcement of it. It's almost like the circus is in town. A traveling road show from, again, D.C., New York, Chicago, now Charlotte, and soon to be in New Orleans. It's not making our community any safer. It's not providing any due process to individuals who deserve them. It's not really doing anything other than demonstrating power and force of a government that has certainly overstepped their authority, coming into local communities and trying to divide rather than bring people together.
Yeah, city leaders last week also saying that people without criminal records are actually being detained in other cities. Now, what are you hearing about the citizens here that are being detained? Because we heard and saw on social media Commander Bovino actually reporting and putting their images out there on social media saying that this criminal or a list of criminals are being taken off the streets in Charlotte and that this is a good thing.
Well, again, part of what's not occurring is accurate and fair communication with the government bodies. And so we are learning too information from social media, which is not really a good way to provide information to local governments about what's happening within their communities. Obviously, they described this as arresting the worst of the worst. Many of the folks that they're picking up have minor misdemeanors at best. Again, I don't have a full understanding of the individuals that they have arrested because they have not provided us any information. And so we know from news accounts like yourself reporting it, when they find out on social media, other avenues about the circumstances of those being arrested. But again, I go back to my point from earlier, which is racially profiling individuals, right? And under no circumstances should that be allowed. Again, here's a brother who lost his sister in the basement of Emmanuel AME Church, who was racially profiled. She was black, and she just happened to be there, and she was killed. And so I think we really have to look at this with a broader lens, certainly as I am, about the conduct and the action of the officers in the federal government in this case. Obviously, we want to secure the borders. We want to ensure that the safety of every citizen here in the city of Charlotte, but we also want to ensure that individuals have some due process and that we're playing on a level playing field.
What would you like folks to know, and really Charlotteans, what would you like our residents to know in Mecklenburg County moving forward here in the next few days, if not weeks?
Well, one, that there are a wide variety of churches, organizations, grassroots organizations that have their back, that are working to ensure that we are stronger together, and that the city, the county, the school board, local organizations, grassroots organizations are here to support the immigrant community, to ensure that everyone is given the due process that they are required to have by law, to remain calm, to act in a peaceful manner, that try not to instigate any type of disturbance with the officers who are, I guess, trying to do their jobs. I don't think they're doing a good job at it, but just remain calm. And to hopefully that they will be out of our community sooner than later, and that the folks in Washington, D.C., our senators and our members of Congress will have a meaningful conversation about immigration reform and try to work together to solve the issue. It is an issue. I acknowledge that, but it should not be solved on the streets of the city of Charlotte.
And by most accounts, on Saturday's protest there at First Ward Park and the march following seemed, all in all, quite peaceful. So maybe more to come as that spreads.
Yeah. Folks should peacefully protest, make sure that their voices are heard. Certainly that's what our democracy is built upon. Obviously, it's also built upon going to vote, and we just had a recent election weeks ago. There will be another one next year in March for the 2026 election. This is what some of this is really about, right? Power and control. In North Carolina, we have a U.S. Senate race that will be on the ballot, our General Assembly, etc. And people should exercise their right to vote, because that's how you can have immediate and impactful change to make sure that we have policies in place that reflects the community nationally as well as here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
City Council Member Malcolm Graham joining us here on Live Impact News. Appreciate, again, your time and weighing in here this morning.
All right, so that was the interview from this morning with Charlotte City Councilman Malcolm Graham. We're going to take another break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Let's get a check of the forecast. It's a beautiful day outside, folks. But we're going to check in with the forecast with meteorologist Majestic Storm. Let's take a listen in.
Gorgeous all throughout the weekend. Yesterday, we nearly hit 80 degrees, so I can't promise you temperatures getting that warm. But we get to at least hold on to sunny skies as we are easing into our new work week. 61 degrees right now in the Queen City. Not even a single cloud in the sky. It is gorgeous. Another live camera. This one's coming in from Beach Mountain. You can see a little bit of leftover snow, but not a whole lot, that's for sure. And even nicer conditions as we're heading through areas like Dallas, where again, nice and clear. If you want to go for a hike or a walk today's going to be a perfect day to do that. Anything outside, really. Yesterday was kind of on the warm side. If you were outside for an extended amount of time, it got kind of warm. I mean, 79 degrees is where we topped off for our Sunday high. And today, while we are still above our average, we're going to feel that difference. 66 for our high. At least it's still going to be very nice. Little breezy as we're heading into tomorrow. We're going to be watching for elevated fire danger at times because of all the ingredients that are in place. If a fire was to start, it could spread rapidly, especially as those winds start to pick up tomorrow. We'll talk more about that, but then by Wednesday, let me tell you, if you liked yesterday's forecast, we have another day just like it. Plan for that on Wednesday. We're bringing back that warmth. Today in the mountains, it's beautiful. 48 degrees for your high there in Banner Elk. Out towards Blowing Rock, 50 degrees. 51 out there in Boone. And as we're looking towards the foothills, again, mainly low to mid 60s with clear sunny skies. A little warmer as we're heading right around the Charlotte metro area. Gastonia, 66 for you and Shelby. And then let's head to the south just a bit more, right around the same. 65 in Chester and 66 there in Lancaster. Overnight tonight, remember the sky is going to stay clear. That means tomorrow morning for our Tuesday, it's going to be kind of cold. Heading out the door into the 30s. We have some spots that'll be nearing that freezing mark. Out there towards Salisbury, you could even dip down below freezing tonight. 33 for Wadesboro, so if you have any outdoor pets, make sure they're properly taken care of. After we get through Tuesday morning, we start to see those overnight lows that really become very mild with several nights and early mornings really into the 50s, so really going to be pleasant as we're heading into the later half of our work week. And honestly, that's kind of just setting the tone for what's to come. 66 for our high today, nearing 70 tomorrow, and then all of a sudden, Wednesday rolls around and we'll see a high of 76 degrees. So we're bringing back that warmth. It is going to be a little breezy at times, but those winds are going to be pumping in that warm air from the southwest, and you can see how those temperatures really respond. So instead of feeling like a typical November day, we'll have multiple days in a row where it actually feels like October with multiple days into the 70s, and then we eventually start to see more 60s, but overall our whole week looks quiet. We have nice clear skies all across the Carolinas as we switch it over to our satellite and radar. High pressure firmly in place, but watch a system mainly to the north of us from Cincinnati up towards Cleveland. That's early on, actually it's in the afternoon on Tuesday afternoon, but it tries to get to our area. However, it doesn't do a great job. It breaks apart. Now, if you're in the mountains, we can't rule out that you don't get a few stray sprinkles, but for the most part, we're going to stay dry all the way until this weekend and possibly leading up to Thanksgiving. That's where we could see some more active weather move in and then eventually a significant cool down to finish out the month of November. Little breezy as we're heading into tomorrow. Keep that in mind. And there's that Jerry Hines Super Center 7-day forecast. Lots of sunshine, very quiet weather, but really on the warm side with 76 returning as soon as Wednesday.
All right, so that is your full forecast. When we get back from break, we'll have more on our coverage of Border Patrol's presence here in the Charlotte area. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We want to continue our coverage and give you the latest information that we are getting into our newsroom on Border Patrol Operation Charlotte's Web here in the Charlotte area. We learned earlier that Border Patrol has detained and put into custody 130 plus people during the first 2 days of operations. And so we've been covering this since they touched down on Saturday. Now we obviously recovered it as we covered it as we heard reports of Border Patrol coming to the Charlotte area, but we've been on top of it ever since they touched down, and we've been streaming here on Live Impact News, also on WCNC Charlotte, and we've been hearing from leaders all over the place on their perspective on this situation. We want to make sure all voices are heard. We've reached out to GOP leaders, Democratic leaders. We're still waiting to hear back from many of those. We heard from many of those as well. And one of those leaders, Charlotte Mayor Pro Tem Dante Anderson, coming on the stream. We spoke with her over the weekend as the operations got underway. Let's take a listen in with our one-on-one with Vanessa Rufus.
Well, I mean, I guess wanted to kind of jump off. Clearly, I get your take at this point. Sounds like you are not in favor of what you're seeing. Have you been able to see some of the images coming from various communities within Charlotte showing these arrests or encounters with Border Patrol that just happened today?
Yes, I've been able to see a few of the images that have come through today, and it's just 1:30, but there's so much going on in our city. We have a marathon going on. We're interviewing candidates for our transit authority. We had a firehouse ribbon cutting, and yet with all of the good things going on, we see the images that are occurring throughout various neighborhoods within the Queen City. First, I just want to say, listen, Charlotte is a lawful city, so we will always abide by the law. However, we know that for decades, the city of Charlotte has been a beautiful mosaic of immigrant cultures and impact to our community through a variety of different ways. And we honor our immigrant community, and we stand beside them and support them. And we want to make sure that our residents not only feel safe doing the normal things that they need to do, like going to work and our children going to school, going to the grocery store, but we have to indeed make sure that they are safe through this process. And I understand this presence that we did not ask for as a city is creating undue trauma and undue harm and affliction to so many of the residents of Charlotte.
Well, speaking to, I guess, the response that you're hearing from the community to the specific operations that are happening here, I mentioned this before earlier in this stream. I had done some reporting where I spoke with CMPD several months back, and they actually brought me to one of the neighborhoods where we're actually seeing some of the videos coming out of, and talked about, an effort that, CMPD had been trying to do to bolster trust within the Hispanic community, knowing that, they say a lot of folks are hesitant to come to them and even report if they've been a victim of a crime because they're afraid that either their legal status would be used against them or they just don't trust authority and they don't trust law enforcement in general. And so we've been seeing, in recent days, with the knowledge that Border Patrol was coming, CMPD and other local law enforcement attempting to distance themselves from the actual operation, saying, we're not part of this and we're here for you. I guess on that front, what can you share as far as what you're hearing from folks in your district about how they're taking this and what your hope would be for folks who feel like they can't come forward at this point and speak with anyone in law enforcement if they need help?
Yes, so first and foremost, CMPD is here and their charge is meant to keep public safety intact. So they are not authorized in any shape or form to participate in the execution of ICE and Border Patrol activities, nor can they interfere. So that's what they're trying to be clear on, is they're not a part of this planning, they're not a part of the execution, and they cannot interfere. However, the residents of District 1 and the residents of the city of Charlotte have rights. And there's been publishings and posts that have been put out. I know that you have shared the information about the Carolina Migrant Network and the International Houses and the Latin American Coalition, Legal Aid. 311 is open all weekend as well, so residents can call 311 if they need to understand where they can get assistance. The Housing and Neighborhood Services Department of the City of Charlotte is working all weekend as well to connect the dots. And if you need assistance, if you believe crime is going on or your rights aren't being met, do not hesitate to call 911. Do not hesitate to call 911 with the understanding that CMPD is here to ensure that public safety is first and peace exists on the streets. Now, we have a protest going on in the city. There will be others. And that is our right. Each and every one of us have the right to protest publicly. It is a gift that we have for living in the United States. However, we don't want any of those protests to become violent. We don't want any of those protests to become escalated, because that then introduces opportunity for other things to occur. So I want to make sure that we say that we absolutely support any resident that wants to peacefully protest, and CMPD will be out there to ensure that residents can peacefully protest. But we want to ensure that there is no violence, there's no escalation of hostility, because once that happens, it becomes something that you can't control, and things can happen very quickly. We don't want any harm to be caused to our residents. We know from CMPD's third quarter release of their report that crime is down across the city. Year over year, violent crime is down. So we don't particularly have a unique issue of violent crime, or we're not a city of rampant crime. We're the 14th largest city in the United States of America, and we have had numerous companies come and say, hey, they want to stand up outposts, have their headquarters here. Just last week, we had 2 huge announcements bringing good paying jobs here. They wouldn't be coming to the city of Charlotte if we were a violent city. So we don't over-index in violence. We don't really need any assistance as it relates to that. We need to continue to recruit good officers like we have on CMPD to ensure that we keep peace. But I want our residents to know that CMPD is really trying to just underscore the fact that they are not authorized to get involved, nor can they get involved. But if there's an issue of public safety, and if you believe you are under personal harm and crime is happening to you, do not hesitate to contact 911.
Now, you mentioned, of course, the protest that's set to get underway in probably about 20 minutes or so. For a little bit of context, we popped up a shot right in the middle of, as you were saying that. So that was what folks were seeing. We'll bring you back now to this live feed. We've got our crew that just arrived over at First Ward Park, 2 p.m. This is a gathering of multiple groups who say that they are in disagreement with these Border Patrol operations. So you can look there as folks are kind of getting ready, and they've got signs, and you're seeing the organizers kind of chatting with each other, and you saw a hug between 2 of them. So we heard your desire for folks to kind of keep it peaceful, not create any sort of violence, not stir up any trouble. What can you say as far as, we see what the community members are doing. What are city and county leaders doing? Because I know that there was a big concern amongst many of you, because we saw that update from just yesterday where a bunch of folks specifically in the county gathered to say, we're not getting any information from federal authorities. Are there any steps that y'all are taking, as we speak, going forward, you plan to take to try to get a little bit more clarity on how long these operations are going to last and what they might entail?
Absolutely. So for the city of Charlotte, you know, we have been conducting our research to understand first and foremost what has occurred in cities where ICE and the Border Patrol have had a similar presence, right? So we understand the lesson learned from those cities. We are also reaching out to some of our counterparts throughout the country to understand, you know, what are some of the best practices to go about engaging in this type of activity that is unfortunately occurring in our city. And we are ready. We have our crisis management from a city perspective. We have our crisis management protocols stood up. If need be, we have our escalation services ready on hand. So we are absolutely prepared, right, for the worst and for the full spectrum. However, what would be great is if nothing occurs. And what we've seen and what we've understood is, you know, these types of activities can last from a matter of 4 to 5 days, or they can be expanded and elongated by, as I mentioned, acts of violence and other things. Because if our federal officers are here, they come to the city of Charlotte to see if there's anything going on, and there's nothing going on, there's no real reason to have an extended stay in our city. There are other cities to go to. And so that is our hope. Our hope is that there's nothing really to see here. As I mentioned, we're not an overly violent city. We're not a city of criminals and violent activity. So our hope is that there's nothing to see here, and that the stay would be short. Move on to other cities that have higher crime rates, that have other challenges as well. But for the Queen City, there's not a whole lot to see here. And that is our hope. That's our hope, that we will execute, that our residents will execute themselves in a manner where they can absolutely peacefully protest, but keep things peaceful. Now, I will say, in addition to having something like this type of activity occur in the Queen City, we know that that invites others from the outside who do not live in the city of Charlotte or in Mecklenburg County or in the region. So there will be people who are here today to participate in these activities that don't live here, that don't represent the community. We too ask all visitors here to be peaceful, to be honorable, to honor our values as a city where we are a lawful city. We also embrace our immigrant community. We also want to understand that all of our residents have rights, regardless of status, to be safe and feel safe. And there are specific protocols that have been shared out there to take place if you are confronted by officers, to know your rights, to know how to navigate those scenarios, and to get through it peacefully but lawfully.
Now, I mean, we did mention, obviously, you're the representative for District 1, but you also, in my opinion, have kind of like an at-large presence in that you're also the mayor pro tem, so I feel like you probably have a handle on all of the different communities in Charlotte. Your take on seeing the operations in the specific neighborhoods, just as we're kind of getting reports, you know, from, let's say, the south part of South Boulevard. You know, this is an area where I mentioned I did that piece with CMPD several months back. We know this is a Hispanic community. There are corridors of opportunities where we see that kind of aligning with where some of the presence is in East Charlotte, that Central Avenue stretch. You know, what's your take on that? And for folks who aren't familiar with some of these communities, what can you tell us about the people who live here? You know, the demographics and their role in our city overall as making up the landscape of Charlotte as a community.
Yes. Well, you know, for decades, Central Avenue has been just a wealth bed of various cultures, largely from our Latino siblings who bring vibrancy as it relates to culinary vibrancy, but also workforce vibrancy as well, right? And so we have small businesses along that corridor. We have people who live in that corridor who work throughout the entire city of Charlotte. Yes, in that corridor, but in other parts of the city, right? The north side, the west side, as well as the south side. We also know that, as you mentioned, as you go further south along the Arrowwood corridor and others, that we have an incredible, vibrant community there as well of immigrants who give day in, day out to the city of Charlotte, to our workforce, who make up a huge part of why Charlotte is one of the biggest top 5 cities in the country for business, because we have talent, we have pipeline, we have workforce, and we also have cultural vibrancy. And so it's a shame, and as I mentioned, just the trauma and the undue stress that residents who, just don't want to go about their everyday life. This is a Saturday, it's beautiful weather, there's lots of things going on in the city. Families need to move around and get things done in preparation for the week. And it's a shame that they have to do so under this undue environment of trauma and stress. And so that is what, unfortunately, we're saying, and no one wants to deal with that. No one wants to. No matter where you live in the city, wants to deal with that. But we also know that as a community here in the city of Charlotte and largely throughout the country, that we have individuals, families, some of our elders that have been under stress and under anxiety for weeks as they've had to deal with the government shutdown and SNAP benefits being paused. And so they're trying to figure out and have been stressed out about how are they going to feed themselves? How are they going to make sure that their children are fed, that our elders are fed? And so as we have some movement on that now, positively, to now have to deal with this compounded stress and trauma and anxiety, it's not a good look for us. We don't want it, and we certainly don't want our residents to feel like they have to deal with that, which is why we have programs stood up, we have nonprofit organizations and others that have said we are here to help. We have protocols in place. The city has stood up protocols. We actually just released earlier today a joint statement from CMS, the City of Charlotte, and Mecklenburg County, because we're working intergovernmentally to ensure that our residents can get to the services, the doctor services that they need. I'm hearing that residents are in fear and missing their doctor's appointments, that they're not going to pick up their prescriptions, that children won't go to school on Monday, that workers will stay out of work, which means that, of course, that would be an impact on our economic vibrancy, but also those families will be missing out on the monies that they need to thrive. It's not something that we need here in the city of Charlotte that is such a vibrant city across the board. So, my heart goes out to all residents, regardless if they live in District 1 or District 7, for having to deal with this. And as I mentioned, I hope, my hope and prayer is that no harm comes to any of our families and residents, and that they will be able to move past this, that we will be able to move past this as a city without any undue violence or any type of activity. We saw what occurred in Chicago. We saw what occurred in other cities, and we don't want that here. So we want to say to the officers that are here, we know you have authority to do certain things. We want our residents to be lawful, but we don't want the undue stress and harm in our communities. Hopefully, the viewpoint will be nothing to see here. Charlotte is doing just fine. We are protecting our citizens. We recently stood up several weeks ago a public safety task force, so we are doubling and tripling down on public safety locally. We know the importance of public safety here in the city and in the broader region. So we are doubling and tripling down on ensuring that we're doing everything we can as a city to make sure our residents are safe.
Charlotte Mayor Pro Tem Dante Anderson. We appreciate your time on not only a weekend, but a pretty busy day. As you probably understand, you're getting a lot of messages from maybe constituents or, colleagues as you all are trying to figure out how to do your next steps. So we appreciate it. If there's anything you have to share as far as an update, please don't hesitate to jump back with us here on Live Impact. We'll be streaming for the next several hours, of course, covering the very latest for folks.
Thank you, Vanessa.
And we are going to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. Carlene is also here in studio with me. We are continuing our coverage of Border Patrol's presence, their operation here in the Charlotte area. I do want to point out, and it's important for you to stick with us here on WCNC Plus Live Impact News. As soon as that happens, we will, what I'm about to talk about, as soon as that happens, we'll bring it to you live here on Live Impact News. But what I'm talking about specifically is Action NC is planning to hold a demonstration at the Government Center, and that is as Charlotte City Council, as the Charlotte City Council meeting is happening. Our Tradisha Woodard is going to be there covering that. But this is what their request to Charlotte City Council is. They have three, or I should say several demands, I should say. One, immediately issue instructions to the city manager to deny access to city parking lots, parking decks, garages, buildings, and all real property for the purpose of immigration operations. We further ask that you coordinate similar instructions with the county manager for all similar county properties. The second one produces official signage free of charge that landlords and businesses can post on their property that clearly states that no law enforcement officials may enter non-public areas of their property for the purpose of civil immigration enforcement. Participation is voluntary but encouraged. 3, funds direct support organizations that are educating the public on their rights, providing crisis assistance services, and providing counseling and legal aid. And 4, the last one I want to read, passes an ordinance that prevents Border Patrol, ICE, and any other federal agency from entering city properties without a judicial warrant, I should say. But again, it's called Show Up and Demand Action. It's happening at 3 p.m. at the Government Center. We will have a crew there. We will try to bring it to you live as it happens here on Live Impact News. But I just wanted to point that out. That is happening this afternoon. As I've been mentioning during our stream over the last couple of hours, We have reached out to GOP leaders, Democratic leaders, on the city, county, state, federal level. We have heard from some. We're continuing to reach out. We have are planning to hear from Congressman Ralph Norman a little later, as I should say, tomorrow. He'll be on Live Impact News tomorrow during our 2 o'clock hour. We will hear from him. He was on Live Impact News on Friday. And so we heard from him. He said that he supports the idea of Border Patrol being here in Charlotte. So we'll hear from him. But we've heard from Governor Stein. We've heard from former Governor Roy Cooper. We've heard from Republican Senate candidate Michael Whatley, a GOP leader. And we've also heard from Kyle Kirby, who is the Mecklenburg County GOP chair. So we heard from both sides of the aisle. I'm looking at our feed right now, Carlene. Is that still happening? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we want to go now to the House floor, where we are hearing from lawmakers in our nation's capital, on Capitol Hill. Let's take a listen in to what's being said right now. This is happening live.
Service to the people of Guam. From its beginning in 1938 with the island's first locally owned insurance agency, the Calvo family built more than just businesses. They built opportunity for our island. Over the decades, Calvo Enterprise grew to include companies that became part of daily life, from Mid-Pacific Distributors and Pepsi Bottling Company to KUAM, giving our community a strong media voice, and Payless Supermarkets, helping provide food and essentials to our families. What we recognize today is not only business success, but a commitment to Guam through civic and charitable work, including the Edward M. Calvo Cancer Foundation, which has supported families during some of their most difficult moments. 3 generations later, the Calvo family continues to lead with the same values of hard work, integrity, and service to community, helping strengthen our island and create a future our children can rely on. To the Calvo family and every employee who contributed to this agency, thank you. And congratulations on 50 years of growing with Guam and for Guam. May the next 50 be just as strong. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Iowa seek recognition?
I ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and revise the consent remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is now recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to highlight the $2 million in community project funding I secured for Jones Regional Medical Center in Anamosa to build a permanent state-of-the-art medical simulation lab. For the past several years, JRMC has trained nurses out of 2 temporary trailers, and despite those challenges, their program continues to produce highly skilled providers who are urgently needed across Iowa. This funding will create a 1,700 square foot advanced simulation center that will allow more students to graduate each year and expand training for high-demand medical fields. This investment strengthens Iowa's healthcare workforce, supports our rural hospitals, and ensures communities across Jones County have access to trained, qualified providers. I am proud to have secured this funding and remain committed to strengthening healthcare access and training across Iowa. Mr. Speaker, I would like to wish a very happy birthday to Ambassador and Iowa's longest-serving governor, Governor Terry Branstad. Happy birthday, Ambassador and Governor Branstad. With that, I yield back.
The chair lays before the House a communication.
The Honorable, the Speaker, House of Representatives, sir. In the wake of the late Congressman Grijalva's passing, it has been an honor to wave onto the Education and Workforce Committee and contribute to its work during this transition period. With the recent and long overdue swearing in of Adelita Grijalva, I respectfully remove myself from the Education and Workforce Committee to ensure she can assume this role seamlessly. Signed sincerely, Yasmin Ansari, Member of Congress.
Without objection, the resignation is accepted. The chair lays before the House the following enrolled bill.
H.R. 695, an act to amend Title 38 United States Code to increase the rate of the special pension payable to Medal of Honor recipients and for other purposes.
Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the chair declares the House in recess subject to the call of the chair.
All right, so that was a live look from the House floor. We are going to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNT Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNT Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. Carlene is also in studio with me. So we are continuing to give you the latest updates on Border Patrol operations here in the Charlotte area. And this morning we heard from Richard Devane. He was live during our 9 to 11 stream. He was live, obviously, during our morning shows, giving us an update. He was in East Charlotte where we saw operations happen over the weekend. So Richard spoke with community members this morning regarding these operations, getting their thoughts, getting a feeling of how the community is doing, how they're feeling, their reaction. Let's listen in to some of the folks that Richard was able to speak with. Let's listen in.
Do you worry about the ICE immigrations coming to the school to bother kids?
Of course I do. I worry for the kids' safety, parents' safety. They're not doing anything but dropping their kids off.
What do you tell your kids about what to do if they see these officers?
Well, I just came to drop off my siblings because to say my mom is scared, you know. Either way, I don't know. I don't know how to feel. Just worrying about their safety.
What's that like for people who don't know? Could you describe it?
Terrible. There's no way to describe it unless you actually feel it. It's horrible.
Does it still feel like America to you?
This isn't America. This is terrible. There's no reason. The way they're treating people, I get it. If they were actual criminals, get them, but they're not getting the actual criminals. They're getting hard-working people. They're going to the job working sites, to schools, people dropping off their kids. Like, that's not even humane. It can't be real.
How do you feel about ICE and all of this involvement?
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I don't really know much about the protests or anything, but I think kids should be free to go to school.
What about the removing the folks? Do you feel that that's okay? The general ICE raids?
No, not at all.
Why not?
Why not? We're a nation of immigrants, and I feel like trying to slam the door at any particular point is kind of crazy.
Just what has these last few days been like?
They definitely have been scary. scary, honestly, and just nerve-wracking because obviously you see everything that's going on. You've seen what they've done in other cities, so you can see that and you're scared because you know that they're coming here and it's like, okay, well, what are they going to do here? Like, are they going to come in and treat us the way that they've been treating other people? Or are they going to come in and just, you know, just, I don't even know. But it's just been very scary to think about because you can't protect everyone, unfortunately. You, as much as you would like to, you can't, and you can just hope and pray that everyone stays safe. And as like I've been seeing, a lot of businesses have been closed down because obviously no one's coming in. It also hurts them too. Their small businesses, obviously it hurts them because they have no clientele coming in. They have to shut down. So it's like we have no work, we have no workers. So how are they also? It's affecting their income. It's affecting Charlotte's income as a whole too. Honestly, I work in retail, so I kind of also noticed that at the mall. It was very slow this past weekend, which we were expected to have a pretty busy weekend. We did not at all. It was pretty slow. It was very slow.
Does it feel like the USA? Does it feel like the United States?
No, absolutely not. It feels very different. It feels very, very, very different, honestly. It just feels like empty, like there's just something missing. Like, I don't know, like it just feels like a little surreal, and like there's just like a little like hollow. Like there's just something missing, and unfortunately it is our community that has to be hiding right now.
Has it changed anything about, you know, how you go about your day-to-day life? Have you felt hesitant to leave home, or have you felt like you need to sort of do things differently now?
A little bit, yes, because like I said, I live right near here, so they were at both my neighborhood exits. Luckily, you know, me and my family, like, we're okay and everything, but it is still a little scary to think about. Like, I live right by where this is happening. Like, I could be at home, I could be at work, I never know. Like, they could be there at any single time of the day. I could be getting home at 10 o'clock and they could be there. I could be getting up. I could be literally, my brother and my siblings could be coming home from school. Like, they could be there. Like, at literally any single time, they could just be there. And we did hear that they were around my neighborhood actually this morning, but it's very different.
Is this about illegals, or is it about just racism?
Just racism, because I'm scared. Because I'm scared, and I was born here. And I'm still scared because they're targeting my neighborhood. So clearly I fit in some sort of demographic. They're targeting people who look like me, who speak my language. So it does make me scared, because also I've known that they have taken U.S. citizens, and like, yeah, but still, like, I could be pulled over because they think that I fit the criteria. When in reality, they actually don't even know that I am a U.S. citizen.
You said that this is bringing up bad memories of just something happened to you personally. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that.
Well, actually, when I was younger, my dad got deported, so I do know what it's like to have a parent taken away. So I think that this whole situation has just been a little triggering also. Luckily, he did come back, like, he's fine and everything now, but unfortunately, at that time, I would think I was in kindergarten. My mom had to put me into therapy. I wasn't speaking. Like, it emotionally damaged me, I would say, and I think that still kind of lingers around, because I think just with everything, I've been very nervous, and it's definitely because of everything that's going around. So I think that definitely triggered some unresolved trauma with that. But unfortunately, I do remember. I grew up with my dad, and then all of a sudden, he was just gone, and he just wasn't there. My mom, she didn't work. She had to start working 2 jobs. We had to move in with my grandparents because my mom couldn't afford the house that we were living in anymore. So it was a huge change where it wasn't even just both my parents, it wasn't even just my dad who was gone. It was my mom, because all of a sudden my mom just, all she had to do was work. She couldn't even hang out with me because she had to work, because that was her main priority, was to work so she could literally take care of me. So it was I lost them both in one go.
Do you see that as kind of a similar level of emotional and mental, taking an emotional and mental toll on your brother, your cousin, other kids maybe in your neighborhood?
Yes, because I know that they're worried about it. We were having a conversation about it in the car on our way here. They themselves, I can hear them talking about it in between them. So unfortunately, the kids are aware. They are aware because they're talking about it amongst themselves. And they're scared.
Were they scared to come to school this morning?
Yeah, a lot of them, they were saying, we're not even having, there's nobody going to be, one of my cousins, he didn't even want to come because he was no one in my grade is even coming today. I guess my brother was supposed to have a play today. That's not happening, I'm guessing. Yeah, and they were saying no one's coming to school. And it's very scary. It's a change.
And both of you go to where?
Independence High School.
And just why did you feel you needed to walk out today?
Well, everybody was putting on their Instagram stories we're doing a walkout because of the ice and all the problems they're causing, and because of how many people they're taking.
How many students walked out that you noticed today?
It was a lot, probably more than 60.
And you said you would tell us about how this whole situation is affecting your family and friends.
It's affecting my family and friends because my mother's afraid to go outside, to go buy stuff for us and to go to work, and she's staying home until she knows that things are calm because she's afraid to go out and work.
How is it affecting you?
It's affecting me because I see my mom just inside, not doing anything, and stressing and having fear to herself that she's gonna get taken and not knowing what's gonna happen to us.
And how is it affecting you?
I mean, it's stressful seeing my mom because she struggles with bills already going to work. I mean, even without her going to work, she's struggling even more.
How does this make you feel about the country that this is happening?
I mean, I don't know what it made me feel like, but I'm just How
does the situation make you feel?
The situation with ICE makes me feel bad. I don't really like what they're doing to our people.
And how does it make you feel?
It makes me feel sad because I see little kids losing their parents by ICE and getting taken, seeing them cry, and that it breaks my heart seeing them like that, knowing that their parents did so much work here just for them to get taken by ICE.
Just tell me, how has this whole situation affected your store?
It's affecting all the community, to me too, because it's my business and I have to pay taxes and I have to pay bills and I have to everything. It's for my employees too. They affect the pay for them. It's crazy.
You can't open your business because of why? What happened this weekend that makes you not able to open?
Saturday afternoon they come here in the corner to McDonald's and they get one person.
So you have your employees are not coming to work because why?
Yesterday I called them and I told that today work, but only come two people to work.
The rest are what?
Yeah, I can't work because I see 2-3 trucks there in that street and it's great.
How does this, for the people in the community, you speak to them, you service them at your store. We've seen over a dozen people come here to try to eat every day. How is this affecting the community?
It's a lot because all my customers is coming to try to buy something, to tortillas, to some food, but I can't do that, the service.
How long will you think you have to be closed?
I don't know really. I can't imagine the situation, how long take. Maybe tomorrow I want to open, but if the employees come, I don't know.
And customers may not.
Yeah, it's too, because they are scary too.
All right, so we are going to step aside now. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We want to go now to, this is in New York, right? Okay.
Watertown, New York.
Watertown, New York.
It's north of Syracuse.
Okay. Senator Chuck Schumer is at the podium along with others talking about tariffs. Let's take a listen in.
Stop on the purchase of all American-made craft beer, including our gold medal-winning War of 1812 Amber Ale. 10 to 15% of total business was lost overnight, and in less than 10 months, we have missed out on at least $100,000 in sales. To make matters worse, the strain placed on our relationship with Canada has substantially decreased tourism and cross-border traffic, causing a 5 to 10% decrease in business at our restaurants on the Black River and Lake Ontario. We hope that those deciding these policies on both sides of the aisle understand the true human impact of sudden and dramatic changes to the parameters of trade with our Canadian partners. We thank Senator Schumer for coming to our community to push for bipartisan legislation to roll back the tariffs on Canada, harming small businesses like 1812, and for always fighting to protect New York State's craft breweries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And my father, who I mentioned, was a small businessman, so he was an exterminator. My sister once sent him a Father's Day card that said, "Dad, we're the only family that associates the smell of DDT with love." Because he came home stinking of all the chemicals. Anyway, so I know what it's like. Okay, now we have Sam Burns. He's the chair of the board of the OBPA, the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority. And he knows better than anyone else about the back and forth.
Thank you. Good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank Senator Schumer for taking the time and effort to push for bipartisan legislation to protect the North Country from the devastating effects of the tariffs and damaged relationships with our friends and families in Canada. Since the U.S.-Canada tariff actions took effect In early 2025, OBPA's cross-border operations have taken measurable hits. The authority's business model is tightly tied to Canadian travelers and Canadian-linked freight. When tariffs go up, traffic goes down. The immediate impacts fall into three categories: reduced Canadian personal travel, slowed commercial freight flows, hesitancy from Canadian customers across all business lines. Canadian motorists make up the bulk of our passenger traffic across our international bridge, and crossings are down over 40,000 fewer than last year. And overall, the loss of revenue for this year will reach over $1 million. Roughly 60% of passengers at Ogdensburg International Airport are Canadian travelers. So tariff-related travel hesitation hits immediately. At the Port of Ogdensburg, Canadian-connected bulk commodities, salt, grain, steel, aluminum, show delayed or reduced shipment volumes. Shippers are cautious pending tariff stability, and tonnage is softer overall compared to 2024. In the OBPA's Commerce Park campus, Canadian prospects are slower to commit to leases or expansion. Existing tenants with cross-border exposure are delaying decisions tied to supply chain or cost concerns. In relation to the OBPA's rail operation, Canadian-linked rail movements tied to the port show a modest decline. Higher costs on tariffs, steel and aluminum, and softer demand are reducing carload counts. It is the authority's mission to create sound economic business development in northern New York. Tariffs.
All right, so this is a press conference that's happening in Watertown, New York. Senator Schumer, other New York leaders talking about impacts of tariffs. All right, so we want to move away from that. We'll get back to that. That's still going. We want to go now and continue our coverage of the Border Patrol operations happening in Charlotte. And there have been reactions politically. There have been reactions from the community, organizations as well. We want to send it out to Bria Smith, who's live at Camino. Bria's live there. So, Bria, what is Camino doing to help the community at this time?
Yeah, so I did have the chance to speak to their CEO, Mr. Rusty Price, and he's mentioned the importance of their telehealth right now. A lot of their clients and patients are afraid or fearful of what might happen if they were to actually come into the clinic. So they've offered and opened up telehealth, which allows them to have visits, whether it's their dental appointments or their medical appointments. And he says since last Friday or this past Friday, there have been 24 total cancellations between dental and medical. And he's seen how this telehealth service has been a really big help so far in just making sure that people are able to make those visits, especially those who are depending on it, you know, those who might have diabetes or any other health conditions, but then also just getting what they need and not missing those appointments that might be, you know, very instrumental to their health, Nick.
So, Bria, what is the feeling, energy within the organization right now? And have they had any encounters with Border Patrol?
Yeah, they're feeling a little, I think the perfect word he mentioned was heavy within the clinic, just making sure, again, that everyone's getting the resources that they need, especially those appointment times that are really important for some individuals. We did see a couple of clients here today who did express their concern and their worry of what could happen. And, you know, Mr. Price also kind of mentioned that even though there are some who are documented, they're still even feeling that stress or that worry, you know, of what could happen happen as they see things unfold here since Friday here in Charlotte. So they're just kind of coming together as much as possible, making sure that, you know, everyone who relies on their services and, you know, can benefit from this organization gets what they need at a place of peace, Nick.
All right, that's Bria Smith live there at Camino in North Charlotte. You can catch Bria's story at 4 and 5:30 this evening. Bria, thank you for your time. All right, so we want to head to break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. We want to go back now to Watertown, New York, where Senator Chuck Schumer and New York leaders are talking about the impact of tariffs. Let's take a listen in to what's being said.
Steck and Griffo copies of these ads, and we asked for their responses to it. That was a month ago. We are still waiting and would still welcome their responses, but we do notice that Senator Schumer has on his own shown up and is speaking out against these tariffs, and our group would like to thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. Thank you. Okay, we'll take questions to me or any of the speakers on this subject first. Yes.
Senator,
and just tell me who you are and where you're from.
Lexi Bruni with WWNY.
Right.
Donald Trump has brought up the idea of $2,000 tariff dividend checks going out to people. Does that offset the cost that you're speaking about here today, or what is your response?
First, not close. It's not going to bring these businesses open. The cost is double, and I don't even think these checks will ever come about. It's a very whimsical thing. He's feeling the heat, so he says he's going to send checks to people. First, those checks aren't enough to make up the damage, but second, who knows if they'll ever come. Oh, yes, gentleman in the blue shirt.
Jonathan Wheeler, Watertown Daily Times. The president seems kind of dug in on these tariffs. This is kind of his economic policy. So what's your message to the small business owners who are being hurt by this, and what can be done at the Senate level?
Yeah, as you said, the Trump seems dug in, but the Senate isn't. We got bipartisan bill in the Senate. My message is that we should get the same bill to pass in the House. And we need Republican representatives to go, such as Representative Stefanik, to go to the Speaker and say, I want this bill on the floor. Plain and simple. Okay? Yes?
Dan Mount, WWTI ABC 50. Have you been in communication with your Canadian partners? What's the dialogue with them?
The Canadians are heartbroken. And yet Canadians are mad because, Donald Trump is sort of messed around with them. Canada should be the 51st state. He said bad things about Canada. Here we've had this great long border, this wonderful, peaceful, prosperous relationship, and with just because of his, because of who he is and what he does, he's ruined it. Now we'll try to get it back. We've got to try to get it back. Yes, sir.
Richard Catlett from North Country Public Radio. How hopeful are you that House Republicans will actually back this?
Well, we found in the Senate a bunch did. They're feeling the heat. When you hear these stories, I mean, even generating a local community group to put ads in the local papers, that's not just happening in the North Country, although we're probably worse affected than other places. It's happening in one end of the country to the other. And so the way our country works, the people should call their representatives and say, get this done, and hopefully that will, we hope and pray that will happen. Okay? Anyone else? All right. All right, folks, thank you.
Throw one off topic on you. It's a good one.
Yeah, go ahead.
SUNY Schenectady, air traffic control program, you push hard for the accreditation
Yes.
for that. Where are we in that process, and how important is it now more than ever to get more air traffic controllers?
We
through it?
desperately need more air traffic controllers. Even the Secretary of Transportation has said we need them. I worked hard for the Schenectady program, as you know, and we're not going to be able to travel as easily as we have if we don't have more air traffic controllers. It even puts safety at risk. So both Democrats and Republicans on this issue, and even the Secretary of Transportation has said we need more air traffic controllers. I'm prepared to fund whatever we need at the Schenectady School and other places to do it. Okay?
One more for me.
One more for you.
Thoughts on Stefanik's bid for governor?
Thoughts on... Look, the bottom line is no place has been hurt more than the North Country on the tariffs on health care. We have a high percentage of people on Medicaid who are really going to be hurt. On health care, for instance, the average premium for the average American, it's about the same for New York, goes up $500 to $1,000 a month. How are people going to afford $6,000, $10,000 more a year? But what are mothers and fathers going to say when they can't afford health care for their children? So the bottom line is that I think that Representative Stefanik, by backing up Trump, is hurting her constituents badly. And I think that that's going to hurt her in the election. Okay?
I have one off topic, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, last one.
What are you hearing about heating assistance?
Heat.
What can North Country residents realistically expect?
Okay, well, here's what happened. Again, this hurts the North Country particularly. We rely on HEAP. HEAP is home heating assistance for people, and it mainly goes to elderly people who have a home, but they're no longer earning an income. They're retired, so they need help, and HEAP has always done that. New York is one of the states that benefits most from HEAP, and the North Country probably is the region that benefits the most from HEAP in all of New York. What Trump did in this Doge people is they fired all the people who administer HEAP, but the money is still there. We allocated it. So what we need being done is that the administration and that Trump and the people just send the money to New York State and the other states of the country, and we can get it done. We can get the money to people before the winter, well, the winter freeze has begun to start, but before it really gets worse. Okay? Thank you, everybody. We're on our way. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you,
There's only so much you can do.
I did.
All right, so that was a press conference that just wrapped up. Senator Chuck Schumer and other leaders there in New York State talking about the impact of tariffs. All right, beautiful day outside. Let's get a check of the forecast with meteorologist Majestic Storm.
Gorgeous
this all throughout the weekend. Yesterday, we nearly hit 80 degrees, so I can't promise you temperatures getting that warm. But we get to at least hold on to sunny skies as we are easing into our new work week. 61 degrees right now in the Queen City. Not even a single cloud in the sky. It is gorgeous. Another live camera. This one's coming in from Beach Mountain. You can see a little bit of leftover snow, but not a whole lot, that's for sure. And even nicer conditions as we're heading through areas like Dallas, where again, nice and clear. If you want to go for a hike or a walk today, today's going to be a perfect day to do that. Anything outside, really. Yesterday was kind of on the warm side. If you were outside for an extended amount of time, it got kind of warm. I mean, 79 degrees is where we topped off for our Sunday high. And today, while we are still above our average, we're going to feel that difference. 66 for our high. At least it's still going to be very nice. Little breezy as we're heading into tomorrow. We're going to be watching for elevated fire danger at times because of all the ingredients that are in place. If a fire was to start, it could spread rapidly, especially as those winds start to pick up tomorrow. We'll talk more about that, but then by Wednesday, let me tell you, if you liked yesterday's forecast, we have another day just like it planned for that on Wednesday. We're bringing back that warmth. Today in the mountains, it's beautiful. 48 degrees for your high there in Banner Elk. Out towards Blowing Rock, 50 degrees. 51 out there in Boone. And as we're looking towards the foothills, again, mainly low to mid 60s with clear sunny skies. A little warmer as we're heading right around the Charlotte metro area. Gastonia, 66 for you and Shelby. And then let's head to the south just a bit more, right around the same. 65 in Chester and 66 there in Lancaster. Overnight tonight, remember the sky is going to stay clear. That means tomorrow morning for our Tuesday, it's going to be kind of cold. Heading out the door into the 30s. We have some spots that'll be nearing that freezing mark. Out there towards Salisbury, you could even dip down below freezing tonight. 33 for Wadesboro. So if you have any outdoor pets, make sure they're properly taken care of. After we get through Tuesday morning, we start to see those overnight lows that really become very mild with several nights and early mornings really into the 50s. So really going to be pleasant as we're heading into the later half of our work week. And honestly, that's kind of just setting the tone for what's to come. 66 for our high today, nearing 70 tomorrow, and then all of a sudden, Wednesday rolls around and we'll see a high of 76 degrees. So we're bringing back that warmth. It is going to be a little breezy at times, but those winds are going to be pumping in that warm air from the southwest, and you can see how those temperatures really respond. So instead of feeling like a typical November day, we'll have multiple days in a row where it actually feels like October with multiple days into the 70s, and then we eventually start to see more 60s, but overall our whole week looks quiet. We have nice clear skies all across the Carolinas as we switch it over to our satellite and radar. High pressure firmly in place, but watch this system mainly to the north of us from Cincinnati up towards Cleveland. That's early on, actually it's in the afternoon on Tuesday afternoon, but it tries to get to our area. However, it doesn't do a great job. It breaks apart. Now, if you're in the mountains, we can't rule out that you don't get a few stray sprinkles, but for the most part, we're going to stay dry all the way until this weekend and possibly leading up to Thanksgiving. That's where we could see some more active weather move in and then eventually a significant cool down to finish out the month of November. Little breezy as we're heading into tomorrow. Keep that in mind. And there's that Jerry Hines Super Center 7-day forecast. Lots of sunshine, very quiet weather, but really on the warm side with 76 returning as soon as Wednesday.
All right, so that is a check of the forecast. We want to go now to the Oval Office where President Trump is speaking live. He's talking about the White House task force on the FIFA World Cup 2026. Let's take a listen in to what President Trump is saying.
I guess it's going all over the world. Do you know who's getting it the next time around? Who's getting it? Has that been selected?
The next one will be Morocco, Spain, and Portugal.
That's good.
With 3 matches at the beginning in South America, Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay. And the one after will be Saudi Arabia in 2034.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Well, we have the king coming, Crown Prince is coming tomorrow. This will be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to showcase the greatness of American world-class athletic competition as we celebrate our nation's 250th year. The World Cup will also be an incredibly significant economic opportunity for countless American workers and businesses. It's expected to drive more than $30 billion, Johnny. I don't know about that. That sounds like a lot of money.
No, that's true.
Are you sure?
100%.
How much does the country get out of that?
30 billion.
20%. No, do we get like a percentage of the gross or anything?
That's for negotiation.
That's right. And it's going to create nearly 200,000 jobs for America. Since the creation of the White House FIFA Task Force earlier this year, Secretary Rubio's team at the State Department has worked tirelessly with the Department of Homeland Security to ensure that soccer fans from all around the world are properly vetted and able to come to the United States next summer easily. Before I took office, it would often take a year to get a travel visa, but because of the administration's hard work, now in more than 80% of the world, think of that, the wait time for a visa is 60 days or less. For those who intend to join us for the World Cup, I strongly encourage you to apply right away. And I want to thank FIFA Task Force and Secretary Rubio for the great job. Marco's doing a fantastic job in many ways, too. So I want to just thank you all for a great job. Marco, you're doing a great job. Beyond even this, we're also creating what we're calling the FIFA Prioritized Appointment Scheduling System. That's a hard one for most people to remember, but it's there nevertheless. And this will allow World Cup ticket holders with long wait times to opt with FIFA for a prioritized interview. And I've directed my administration to do everything within the power to make the 2026 World Cup an unprecedented success. I think it's going to be the greatest. And we are setting records on ticket sales. Nobody's ever really, and FIFA's never, you know, if you look at the numbers, nobody's ever seen anything like the kind of numbers we're doing. The early ticket sales are through the roof, and much of it is even sold out. So congratulations, Johnny. And I'd like to ask Johnny to say a few words. He's really done an incredible job. He's got unbelievable spirit and personality and talent and intelligence, I always like to say, because it's all a part of it. But the job you've done is based on what's happening, unprecedented. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you. Thank you, President. Thank you very much. I would like to start really by thanking you, Mr. President, Secretary Rubio, Secretary Noem, Andrew, your entire team for approving and making this very important announcement today. The FIFA Pass is being announced, the prioritized appointment scheduling system. That's the way people will remember it. So if you have a ticket for the World Cup, you can have a prioritized appointment to get your visa, because we said it the very first time we met, Mr. President, America welcomes the world. America will welcome the world here next year. We will have between 6 and 7 million tickets sold for the matches. We'll have between 5 and 10 million people coming to America from all over the world to enjoy the World Cup. And with this FIFA Pass, we can make sure that those who buy a ticket that are legitimate football fans or soccer fans, they can come and attend the World Cup in the best conditions, starting from getting their visa and then coming, of course, in the country to enjoy. You mentioned the economic impact, the 30 billion, 200,000 jobs, and this is just for the World Cup, and we will build on that to make soccer even greater here. You are the #1 country in the world, the United States of America, Mr. President. You have to be the #1 country as well in the #1 sport in the world. So we have to work for that, and we will do that, and the World Cup will be very, very significant in this respect. So big, big thank you to you, to the White House Task Force, to everyone involved, and we are celebrating next year not just the 250 years, but also the greatest and most inclusive World Cup ever. We'll have 6 billion people watching. We have the draw coming up on the 5th of December here at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. 1 billion people watching the draw to find out who plays whom and where. We have 32 teams already qualified. Before or by tomorrow night, we'll have 42 out of 48 qualified. So a quarter of the world will be here, and we are looking very much forward. So thanks Thanks for the support, thanks for the great work, and always happy to be here at home, if I can say that.
You are home. We are. There's your beautiful trophy right there.
Yeah.
You are. And a big part of it, too. Marco, would you say a few words?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. First of all, for getting the games, because this happened in your first term when the Cup came here, and it's a major undertaking. So we've deployed over 400 additional consular officers around the world to deal with that, in some cases doubling the size of the consular presence in our embassies in certain countries. And the good news now is that about 80% of the world you can get an appointment within 60 days. It used to take, half a year or longer, and now sometimes it took, now you can get it in less than 2 months, where in places it took over a year. In places, for example, like Brazil and Argentina, it took over a year to get an appointment. Now you can get it in less than 2 months. So our advice to everybody is, if you have a ticket for any of the games, you need to apply if you haven't done so as soon as possible. Don't wait till the last minute. Your ticket is not a visa. It doesn't guarantee admission to the U.S. It guarantees you an expedited appointment. You're still going to go through the same vetting. We're going to do the same vetting as anybody else would get. The only difference here is we're moving them up in the queue. We're moving them up faster. But my advice to everyone that's watching around the world is, if you intend to come to the games, you have to have a ticket. You need to apply. Apply as soon as possible. You're going to get your interview within, 6 to 8 weeks, and move forward from there. Don't wait till the last minute to do it. Thank you.
Mr. Congressman, would you like to say something?
Well, first of all, Mr. President, none of this would have happened without your leadership securing this during your first term. I tell my colleagues all the time, this will be the largest sporting event in the history of the world. We expand from 32 to 48 teams for the first time ever. We're doing it with Mexico and Canada, but obviously the 11 host cities will be here in the United States, and it's going to have a $30 billion impact economically in this country. And so it has been a team effort by everybody, but I also want to thank President Infantino and obviously you, Mr. President, and your entire team, Andrew and Nick and everybody. It is going to be an unbelievable sporting event next summer.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Andrew, would you like to say something?
Sure. I think
we'll have somebody much more important.
much more important. And honestly, without her work, without Secretary of State Rubio's work in the State Department, this would not happen. And without your leadership and your vision, this would not have happened. I think 2 key points. One that the Secretary of State already highlighted. This is a welcoming message to the world without going around the safety and security procedures. It's so key to make sure that this World Cup is safe and secure, and the White House Task Force is working every day to make sure that's the case. And also, as Congressman LaHood said, the economic benefits for American businesses, both small and large, from a $30 billion event like this. So really, thanks to all the White House Task Force members, from Secretary Rubio to Secretary Noem. The 2 notice of funding opportunities that went out to the cities and states last month were really key from the safety and security perspective. To Deputy Chief of Staff Luna, who is integral in this whole process, to the White House Task Force members that are standing in the back of the room today and that couldn't be here. Without your hard work, this would not have happened, and I really can't thank you enough for really the best team I've ever been a part of. And also to FIFA, to the President Gianni Infantino, my good friend Carlos Cordiero. Your desire to make this World Cup the best yet, it's contagious. Every single day I come in and think, what can we do to make this even better? And Mr. President, your vision more than anything. I think it takes a unique visionary to be able to go and see a sporting event and realize that this can be one of the greatest cultural events in world history. And I think there are very few people, aside from the 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, that can do that undertaking. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Chrissy?
Well, Mr. President, thank you for Andrew. Thank you for making him the head of our FIFA task force. He's fantastic. And Nick has been a rock star in facilitating all of our meetings, getting everybody together, and making sure that we're prepared to host this event. And it's going to be the world's largest sporting event ever hosted, and it's happening under your leadership. So every department has been working, but the Department of Homeland Security is working on making sure people can travel here safely. They know that they're welcome to the United States, that each of these events will be cooperative events with our cities to make sure that security needs are met. We put out over $600 million worth of grants to the 11 host cities that they'll have the advantage to partner on technologies and screening technologies, drone technology, counter UAS as well will be implemented. So we'll be prepared to host it safely, but also with Marco's leadership at the State Department, making sure that people that come in on these tourist visas are coming in thoroughly vetted, just like anyone who would travel here, and they would come and enjoy our country, and then they would go home. and go home in a timely manner. So we're excited about that, and we're excited to partner with you, Mr. President, on creating memories for people around the world that will make them not just fall in love with the United States, but also fall in love with the sport of soccer.
Well, thank you. How many games are there, Johnny, total?
Total 104 games, meaning 104 Super Bowls in 1 month. This is the magnitude of the event.
You know, when you think,
It is. It's incredible.
it's going to be the biggest sporting event we've ever had. It's like having 104, or even if you cut it in half, 50, 60 Super Bowls, right? That's okay too. Any questions, please?
Mr. President, can you just take us through this FIFA Pass idea that you guys are talking about here? How exactly is it going to work for ticket holders to this big event that the United States is hosting?
I'll let my guys do that because they can do it much better. And either one of you two, Nick, would you like to talk about it?
Sure. Well, Mr. President, without your leadership, this would not happen. And we came in 10 months. We have a system that's going to welcome the world. The greatest host in the history of the world is going to host the world here. Basically, this system allows folks with a FIFA ticket purchased through FIFA to go through the FIFA portal. That is then going to get prioritized with the State Department, so that those appointments are going to be had before existing appointments, so that people, when they buy tickets, they have confidence that they're going to be able to come to the games and spend their money and travel this country and do all the things that they want to do and enjoy the game. So it's an incredible vision that the President executed here. Within 10 months, we started with really not that much. And so this whole team here, with the President's guidance, has made this possible. It's going to be the greatest games in the history of the world.
Okay, do you have that?
Yes,
Yes. Not too complicated. Daniel, please. Daniel?
Mr. President, yep. You're talking about the economic impact of this. Billions and billions of dollars. This builds on the framework and the groundwork that you've built already up for a major year in 2026. Deregulation, energy independence, tax cuts, historic amounts of private sector investments. What do you envision for the 2026 economy when this event comes to town next year, too, on top of everything else?
Yeah, it's just a huge economic boon to this. You know, we had a little shutdown that was caused by the Democrats, and this will make up for it many times over, so that's good. But I think it's the importance of the event all over the world. The world is watching, and it really is. It's like having, you know, many Super Bowls, actually. Each game is almost a Super Bowl. Some of them are, I guess you could say, bigger than Super Bowls. I guess when you get to the finals, it's of that level or more.
Much more.
Worldwide, I think it's got to be more. So that's great. You know, when Johnny and I made the deal, I never thought I was going to be president because I was supposed to be retired by that time. And I got a little lucky. So I'm very honored to have it. And we have the Olympics coming, too. That'll be great. And the 250 is going to be right out on the lawn. You're going to have a UFC event with Dana White and his people. He's going to have the greatest card they've ever assembled. I was talking to Dana White the other day, and they're going to have the greatest card they've ever assembled, Johnny. So you'll be sitting up there with me, Darren. We'll be watching it. So right opposite the front door of the White House. It's going to be on June 14th. So it's really going to be an amazing period of time. But this is something very, very special. World Cup. All my life I've heard about it. Yeah.
Mr. President, I have a question about Venezuela, but can I just first ask, the health of the president's always news. Your voice sounds a little rough. Are you feeling all right?
I feel great. I was shouting at people because they were stupid about something having to do with trade in a country, and I straightened it out. But I blew my stack at these people.
Well, it sounds like there's a follow-up there, but can I ask you about Venezuela? You suggested...
Is there what?
It sounds like there's a follow-up there, but can I ask you about Venezuela?
I thought you said there was a polyp, and I said, I don't want to hear that.
It's a whole other issue.
Okay.
You suggested you've made a decision about what you want to do next about Venezuela. I understand you don't want to tip your hand. Is there anything you're ready to rule out at this point? Are you ruling out U.S. troops on the ground?
No, I don't rule out that. I don't rule out anything. We just have to take care of Venezuela. They dumped hundreds of thousands of people into our country from prisons. Nobody knows better than this young lady right here. She's done an incredible job with Tom Homan and all of your people. It's been amazing. You know, we have a tight border right now. Nobody comes in. But we had millions of people pouring through. A year ago, we had millions of people pouring through our border. And many of them came from Venezuela, including Tren de Aragua, the gang. And I guess what I'm hearing, Christy, is that's as bad a gang as there is anywhere in the world.
It's the worst.
Is that
Absolutely,
actually
sir. Absolutely, they are the worst.
I mean, they're worse than MS-13.
They're killers. They massacre people. They cut them up into pieces, and they bury them in their communities where they grew up. They're horrible people.
And we had a lot of them, and many of them, most of them, pretty soon, most of them are going to be out. But they sent them in like we're a dumping ground. So I'm not in love with the people running Venezuela. I love Venezuela. I love the people of Venezuela. But what they've done to this country, and I really say this, what Biden and the Democrats have done to this country can never, ever be forgotten.
You suggested Maduro wants to talk. Are you prepared to speak with him directly? Would you commit to doing that before you order strikes?
Yeah, I probably would talk to him. Yeah, I talk to everybody.
Mr. President,
go ahead,
can I follow
please.
up on Garrett? Was that what you were
Please, go
referring
ahead.
to? Was that India?
Rebecca Zelka with Blaze News. So in a recent interview, you had made some remarks about H-1B visas. You said about H-1B visas.
All right, folks, Vanessa Rufus taking over in the Live Impact News studio. Thanks so much for sticking with us. We're going to pivot away from this FIFA announcement with the president and move now closer to home here in Charlotte. There is a meeting underway, and you can see here live into the room. This is a city council meeting, and we're told that a local group called Action NC is essentially here to do a protest, and specifically protesting the Border Patrol actions that kicked off in Charlotte over the weekend. Let's listen in right now. Sounds like we have a speaker, and I believe our producers mentioned this is Jennifer Roberts, former mayor of Charlotte.
Noah Howell, constituent. Nate Seymour, constituent.
Lisa Organi, constituent. Jessica Castañeda, constituent. Logan Edwards, constituent.
Kayla Matai, constituent. Micah Cheatham, constituent.
Matt Cheatham, constituent.
Leah H. constituent.
All right, and just a quick update, folks, as we're listening in and trying to tweak the audio a bit. What we're hearing essentially was we were hearing Jennifer Roberts, the former Charlotte mayor, kind of doing an introduction, and it sounds like folks are going around and introducing themselves, and I believe we'll start to hear a little bit more of their messaging in just a bit. So bear with us here as we kind of watch this feed together.
Here on the left.
Diego Barahona, La Noticia newspaper.
Has immigrant advocate.
Noah, Democratic Socialist of America, Charlotte Metro.
Mimi Ferraria. Paula Acton of North Carolina.
JD Masueda Arias, Councilmember-elect for District 5.
Layla El Ali, Charlotte United for Palestine. Alicia Snow, Charlotte United for Palestine.
Robert Dawkins, troublemaker.
All right, we'll start here on the left here.
Right here.
Ayana Galloway, Chief Operations Officer for C.W. Williams Community Health Center. Hi, Sarah Hazel, Chief of Staff, City of Charlotte.
Lacey Williams, City of Charlotte.
Vanessa, Charlotte Citizen. Jacqueline Lewis, Community Advocate.
Fred Shealy, constituent.
Marcy Shealy, constituent. Susan Campbell, constituent. Phoebe Bradbury, former constituent. Kristen House Bradbury, constituent. Judy Southern Cohen, community advocate.
Oh, God. Ken Shore, constituent.
Janina Castro, Circle de Luz.
Billy McGee, constituent.
Sally Stokes, Playmore Charlotte.
Jackson Nider, constituent. Garrett Finn, also troublemaker.
Jennifer Smallville, constituent.
Dean Mullis, civil rights advocate and social worker.
Sabrina Camaro, attorney at the Charlotte Center for Legal Advocacy. Sharon Harmon, good troublemaker. Deb Douglas, Indivisible Charlotte. Pat Martinez, businesswoman and constituent.
Lou Martinez, concerned citizen.
Rachel Hewitt, constituent.
Bethany Combs, constituent.
Paul Marvin, indivisible.
Judy Houston, indivisible. Sam Hanley, indivisible. Sarah Perez, constituent.
Michael Rossler, constituent.
Dan Castro.
Preston Gibson, constituent.
Brandon Castro, student.
All right, is it all?
I guess Hector Vaca, Immigrant Justice Director for Action NC, and documentary photographer with Adela Bocafoto.
All right. Thank you all for being here today. So we are diverting from our scheduled agenda today because we are not in normal times right now. Federal Border Patrol activity has escalated, and we have seen our families, including U.S. citizens, that are being racially profiled, targeted, questioned, detained, and harassed with no transparency. And this is not community safety, this is community chaos. And I have had conversations with Mayor over the weekend, and she suggested that we have this conversation at BGIR committee meeting today to discuss the action that we can take here at the local level to keep our community safe. We have heard a number of reports of people being stopped without cause, questioned without justification, and detained without notice to the city, and that is unacceptable. As you know, there have been a number of scenarios. A particular one that stands out, a U.S. citizen had his car window smashed by Border Patrol right here in our city. And that individual was questioned twice despite having proven his status. And this was documented in the Charlotte Observer. So thank you to the Observer for covering that, because this is not hypothetical, this is happening right here in our community. And let me be very clear, no one wants violent criminals who are undocumented in our communities. Public safety is not up for debate, but this is not about catching criminals. This is about abuse of power, this is about discrimination, this is about violation of constitutional rights. I had never imagined having to tell my 4-year and 2-year-old children what to do if their mom or dad does not pick them up from school. And no parent in Charlotte should ever have to prepare their children for that possibility. So we are going to do everything in our power to keep our community safe. Thanks to Councilmember-elect JD, as well as Action NC, who have worked with me over the weekend to figure out the steps that we can take at the local level. There was a memo sent to our city attorney, and she has worked over the weekend with her staff to prepare very detailed responses. So I would like us to go through that line by line. So if we can have I will turn it over to the city attorney to walk us through all the actions that we can take and go through recommendations from the city attorney as well as our staff. I will also like to recognize Sean Heath and his entire team. He has been working 24/7. He's been working over the weekend, responding to my calls, and preparing for today. I really appreciate it, Mr. Heath. Thank you. Oh yes, Councilmember Edwin Peacock, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you. I know Mr. Peacock has had several calls with me over the weekend as well, and he has been trying to work to address community's concerns. We appreciate you.
Good afternoon again, Madam Chair, members of council, Mayor. If we could just go through the questions, I will read the question that was presented in my response. So question 1, city owner or city leased property, whether we may legally restrict customs and border patrol and ICE from using city-owned property without a judicial warrant. The city attorney's office, city manager's office, and HR, Human Resources, have developed protocols that have been in place for several months and was distributed again citywide on this past Thursday. This protocol directs staff as to what to do if there is an ICE encounter at city facilities. As part of that protocol, areas that are not open to the public require a judicial warrant, and palm cards or protocols have been distributed to staff working in city facilities to guide them in those interactions and direct them to contact staff attorneys who are on call to assist. Most city properties and facilities are open to the public, including law enforcement centers. Non-restricted properties, for example, include building lobbies, hallways, and meeting rooms, which are generally open to the public. Restricted areas include spaces designated as such, spaces requiring badge access, and spaces requiring any other form of credentialed access. A judicial warrant issued by court order, unlike an agency-issued administrative warrant, authorizes access into any restricted area. The city should maintain consistent practices for access requirements for law enforcement agencies, whether local, state, or federal agencies. The second question was whether we may limit federal access to city-collected data for civil immigration purposes unless explicitly required by federal law. Most records related to the transaction of public business are considered public records. The city may not restrict access to public records. The city is prohibited from disclosing any record for which a confidential protection exists unless there's an exception that applies. Each request for a record should be analyzed on a case-by-case basis to determine its status and whether the release is required by law. The third inquiry was with regard to CMPD response protocols. Whether CMPD may be required to verify identities, ensure lawful authority, and investigate potential misconduct when federal agents detain or question residents inside city limits. CMPD does not participate in ICE or other immigration operations, nor is the police department involved in the planning or execution of any federal immigration enforcement activities. CMPD officers are not authorized to assist with ICE administrative warrants, which are civil in nature and not criminal. Officers may become involved only when there is criminal behavior or a criminal warrant that falls under CMPD's jurisdiction. If there is a call for service regarding suspected ICE Border Patrol activity, CMPD will verify that the activity is a federal law enforcement operation, ensure accurate documentation, maintain public safety, and keep the peace. CMPD is authorized to investigate criminal activity or allegations and also enforce state and local law. Additionally, the National Defense Authorization Act is a requirement for federal military and civilian law enforcement personnel involved in the federal government's response to, quote, a civil disturbance to wear visible identification of themselves and the name of the governmental entity employing them. The fourth inquiry was with respect to civil rights monitoring, whether the city may establish civil rights impact tracking systems for incidents involving federal agents. The city may engage in data collection and administer programs designed to further support and provide support for legally permissible initiatives. Each such initiative should be analyzed for its public purpose and statutory authorization. Data gathered and impact tracking records will likely be subject to the Public Records Act. I'll pause there and share there are various impact tracking mechanisms, and so we would need to explore the methodology and the impact thereof. The fifth inquiry was with respect to emergency funding, whether the city may allocate emergency funds, including ARPA, if eligible to community organizations serving impacted residents. Each community request for public funds should be analyzed on a case-by-case basis for public purpose and impact. For North Carolina cities, justifying expenditures of public funds requires demonstrating a public purpose that primarily benefits the community at large and explicitly avoids providing exclusive benefits, or also known as emoluments, to certain private individuals, causes, or special interests. For emergency grants to nonprofit organizations, the city should ensure that appropriate funding eligibility and use requirements are in place to maintain adequate financial stewardship of city funds. Inquiry number 6. Are any of these actions legally permissible for a North Carolina municipality under House Bill 318 and state preemption? House Bill 318, otherwise known as the Criminal Illegal Alien Enforcement Act, primarily addresses local law enforcement activities. It expands the requirements for local law enforcement to cooperate with ICE. The law requires sheriffs to determine the immigration status of individuals arrested for all felonies and certain misdemeanors, such as DWI. If an ICE detainer is issued, the bill mandates jails hold the individuals for an additional 48 hours after their scheduled release to allow for pickup. Inquiry number 7 whether Charlotte can restrict federal use of city-owned or leased properties for ICBP staging. Response: access and any restriction should be consistent with the city's general practices and policies at city-owned or city-leased properties. Restrictions on city property should not be targeted at a single law enforcement group or entity and should be consistently applied and enforced under federal, state, and constitutional standards. Inquiry number 8. Whether distributing official signage to private property owners would be lawful or viewed as by the state as attempting to impede federal enforcement. This is not advisable because it likely violates the constitutional prohibition on benefiting individual citizens rather than for the public welfare, public safety, or serving a public purpose. Number 9, any risk to city-state relations, federal cooperation, or public safety. As a political subdivision of the state of North Carolina, City Council's actions are most successful and legally defensible when grounded in clear statutory authority and constitutional authority granted by the city charter, the North Carolina General Assembly, state, and federal law. I will stop there and be happy to address any comments or questions.
Yes. All right, folks, probably a good time to take a quick break here. We're going to be back in 2 minutes. We've been looking live in on this Charlotte City Council meeting where you have a local group, Action NC, is demanding essentially a stronger stance from city leaders as it pertains to Border Patrol enforcement that's been underway since this past weekend. We'll be back in 2 once again, rejoining with this meeting in progress. Stay with us here on Live Impact. Welcome back to Live Impact News. I'm Vanessa Rufus. As we speak, City Council in Charlotte is hearing from local group Action NC on its requests regarding what essentially the group is calling more or less a stronger stance from city leaders with Border Patrol operations kicking off in the city over this past weekend. We just saw the group outline some of its requests, including denial of certain federal agents from city property, parking decks, garages, buildings, etc., as well as increased funding support for organizations that directly assist communities that are particularly impacted by these operations. So with that, we do have city leaders responding now to those requests, answering and asking questions. Let's listen in. We've got Councilmember Dimple Ajmera who's speaking right now.
They can call CMPD, and CMPD can respond to that call to ensure that we are verifying identities of those individuals, so there is some sort of transparency.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I have other questions, but I'll let my colleagues go first. So with Councilmember Mayfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, statement and question for our attorney. The statement is, last night the Black Political Caucus did host a meeting where Sheriff Gary McFadden did share quite a bit of information with us. One of the first being, say you are inside of your home, and this is more so for the community, to one, you do not have to open your door. Thankfully, for a lot of people, we have some type of security system, Ring camera. Question, do you have a warrant that's signed by a judge? Because what we are seeing isn't ICE, it's Border Patrol, even though we don't have any borders right here for you to be patrolling. And what we have is our federal troops that are coming in, and it is extremely disheartening that what we are seeing across the nation, and this is going to be studied for decades beyond, the way troops have been deployed on U.S. soil and the impact it is having on residents. But I also want to clarify through our attorney, the city of Charlotte, because we've seen articles, I've shared information, say Chicago was able to actually create some language. We are not a strong mayor form of government. So that is the first thing that a lot of people don't realize and or understand. We are under a Dillon Rule state. The people that we elect in the North Carolina General Assembly are the ones who create the rules, and those are also some of the individuals that thought it was a great idea to invite this chaos to our city. Your best bet, not in looking at what's happening right now, y'all need to get out and vote. Let's just have a real conversation, because we're the ones that elect these people into the North Carolina General Assembly. Because we are not a strong mayor form of government, the mayor's office does not have the ability to direct CMPD to do some of the things that Chicago may have been able to do. And I would like clarification to ensure that what I am sharing is accurate. You did mention that really the best way for us to help our community right now is to recognize it's all hands on deck. We have also learned, because it was shared last night by our chair of CMS, Chairwoman Sneed, that no, individuals cannot step onto CMS school grounds, and including the parking lot. But here's the reality. Once you drop your child off and you step out into public space, that's a different conversation. So what can we do? Build stronger relationships with our neighbors. For that individual who is concerned about taking their child to school, and you know that that's your child's classmate, go ahead and get the homework. Check in with the teacher. If people are afraid to go to the grocery store and your neighbors, go ahead and walk a door or two doors down and knock on your neighbor's door to find out, do you need anything? I will go to the store and pick up what you need to help minimize you feeling the fear of going out, but you still need your medication, you still need groceries, you still need baby formula. This is where we come together as a community and step up to help each other and do just that. This is what being a neighbor looks like, because we do not have the legal ability to direct CMPD to stop individuals. But I want to also make sure, as we have this language in here regarding ICE, this is Border Patrol. It is a segment. These are individuals that are walking around with masks. You do not have to have a conversation engaged with them. You question me, I do not have to respond to you. I do not have to say, I'm a U.S. citizen. I do not have to give you my name. I do not have to give you any information. I can say, do you have a warrant that is signed by a judge? Because what we are seeing, because that judge signing the warrant is for a specific name. That is not what we're seeing happen in our community. There are attacks that are happening, but I need the community to understand the reality of, even though we individually or as a council may want to create some policy language to help protect our community, legally, because we serve at the pleasure of the North Carolina General Assembly. Because our General Assembly, prior to the last election, not only reduced the powers of the governor, they reduced the powers of our district attorney. So even if our governor and our district attorney wanted to create certain measures, a number of those powers have been reduced. But I would like to hear from our attorney to ensure that what the information that I am understanding and that I'm sharing with the community is accurate, and if it's not, please correct me.
Thank you, Councilmember Mayfield. You are correct. I'll start with the comparison to Chicago. You're correct. Chicago, Illinois, they are home rule state in comparison to North Carolina. That is a Dillon's rule state. The difference is home rule states, they typically have the ability to have, the power originates with the local body more so, as compared to a Dillon's rule state like North Carolina, where all of the power originates from the General Assembly. And so City Council, the City of Charlotte, only has as much power that is explicitly granted or inherently granted by the General Assembly's general statutes. And so when it comes to things of these matters of this magnitude, or anything else for that matter, we first have to look to the authority that's been granted by the General Assemblies and the limitations. For instance, with the executive orders described from Chicago, that would not be within the mayor's powers, nor would it be within the powers of the City Council. And so I'll stop there.
Thank you for that clarification. Also, when it comes to how we as a community can show up for each other, as much as we love to go on Facebook Live and Instagram Live and TikTok Live, this is not the time for that. Think about what you read about and what you understood when it came to the Underground Railroad. This needs to be conversations that we're having with each other and not putting every bit online, because these same thugs that are coming into our community are also looking at online. So we don't want to necessarily play our hand, but this is the time where we share the resources directly with each other. We build relationships, we show up, and again, for those who are comfortable, mainly I'm gonna say for all the white people in the room, let's have a real conversation. There is white privilege that comes with me having a lot more melanin than you. You're gonna be able to go to the store, because what I did not see in South Park was any patrol riding around when I was riding around in meetings over the weekend. What I did not see in certain areas of our community were people with masks on attempting to stop, interrogate, or even question individuals. Here's the opportunity for you to be that true ally. Like I shared, do the grocery shopping, pick up the meds if you need to. Make sure that the children have what they need. Make sure that if someone is feeling unsafe because someone's at their home and you're next door, get to know your neighbors, get their phone numbers, go to their back door, bring them over to your house so the children can feel safe. Let the kids play together, because they don't need to be going through all of this. But I want to stress that although I personally, if I had the power and I had all the rings to snap my finger, as Thanos, we would not be in this place, but there would be a lot of other things that I would change regarding this federal government. I do not have that power. But what we do have the power to do, honestly, is to show up for each other. I understand that it is ideal to want to come to your local government to say, what are you doing? How are you going to fix this? 90 million people sat at home and said, this is the leadership that we wanted. Okay. Those that we elected in the North Carolina General Assembly, many who have not had a challenger in years, those we elect in Congress that have been there 40 plus years, that's where we have to take this conversation. But for locally, for the city of Charlotte, if I am understanding our attorney correctly, the only power, which is one of the weakest powers, but also our greatest strength, is in sharing the information. And that strength comes in as a community, us coming together, showing up for each other, talking to each other, and making sure that our neighbors feel that they are safe. Because some of your other neighbors are going to be the main ones that's trying to call this Border Patrol to say, hey, I think my neighbor is. That ain't the neighbor we talking about. They don't need to know what's going on to know what the information is. You know who they are. But for the others, we have an opportunity to show up for each other and do something that we have probably been doing at a small level. We got to ramp that up to 100,000%. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Chair.
All right, thank you.
All right, folks, you've been listening into a Charlotte City Council meeting, which has kind of gone off agenda, in the words of one of the council members, as Action NC, a local group, is demanding more action from local leadership as it comes to pushing back against Border Patrol. And so you're hearing some of the commentary from council members in response to that. We're going to take a quick break, folks. We'll be back in 2 minutes. We will rejoin this feed with more of the dialogue that's underway. Thanks for sticking with us. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for sticking with us here on Live Impact News. I want to turn back now to the City Council meeting happening in Charlotte as we speak. Council members responding to a local group, Action NC, demanding more action from city leaders regarding Border Patrol operations. Hearing now from James Smudgy Mitchell, council member.
30 this morning. They had 3. The other 23 called in and said they could not come to work. This is an economic impact on our city.
Yes.
I'm in the construction industry. I build things. We had 4 projects this morning that we had nobody to show up and continue to do work. This is not the Charlotte we love. And so I think for us, if you can give us some guidance, we need to be able to share something with our citizens, ensure that we're going to do what we can to make sure you're safe and you continue to live and love Charlotte. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Mitchell. Absolutely, economic impact. You look at restaurants, stores that are being closed until further notice. There is an economic impact to construction industry, retail, and we need to consider that as well. I hear there are 2 action items to Councilmember Mitchell's point. Number 1 is educational campaign, and number 2 is the support for our organizations that are on the front line, that are working with impacted communities. And I don't want to take the glory here. So I know Councilmember Brown did reach out to me earlier, and she wanted to make those motions.
Can you talk about what the motion is? What motion are y'all even referencing?
She hasn't talked about it. I'm going to let her speak to her motions.
All right. I've got some questions for the attorney before she speaks, or after she speaks.
Okay,
Sure.
no problem. With all due respect, thank you, Councilmember Peacock. So, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. And attorney, please keep me in line. I'm an advocate for human life and just dignity and respect, and I don't see any of that going on. And I am definitely a huge supporter of our immigrant community. I love them. I work with a lot of them, and it's very frustrating to see this. So my First Amendment constitutional rights, I say pretty much what I want to say, and I always have and probably always will. I'm 54. So today I want to begin by thanking our chair for bringing this meeting. It's very, very important for us to have this meeting. My fellow colleague, committee members that are here, Mayfield, Peacock, Mitchell, and standing firm in this moment and to ensure our residents receive clear information and not chaos. There's been a lot of chaos. There's been a lot of footage on social media. It's really disturbing and it's frustrating to see children crying, parents walking. I know Councilmember Mayfield said that she would say not to record. I'll plead the fifth on that one. We need to make sure that we know that our people are safe. And I say our people because I put myself in the category with you. You are a target, plain and simple. You work hard, you deserve to be here, you matter. You still do not have to face this alone. You have rights. Your rights exist. I know that we are a dealing rules state. I get that, I understand that. So anybody under the sound of my voice know that we stand with our community. They are human beings. Their dignity needs to be restored. And fairness and humanity in a due process is definitely not being followed. And I will continue to speak up, and I will continue to honor their values, their lives, their dignity, their humanity, and their respect. And for Charlotte, for everybody that's listening in, for everybody that's standing with us, that look up for us and want us to do more, we have an attorney that will tell you what we can and cannot do. And you've heard some of that around the room. Personally, I don't want to run into them because I'll probably be in jail, incarcerated, and it's for a good cause. And to every resident who is afraid, I see you, I hear you, and you are not alone. I love you, and I wish I had a magic wand to make this go away, but we stand in solidarity with you. You deserve to be here, and don't think for one moment that you don't. And that's coming from me, Tijuana Brown, Charlotte City Council District 3. What is happening to you is inhumane. Thank you.
All right, before Councilmember Brown makes a motion, I would like to recognize Councilmember Peacock.
Madam City Attorney, I want your answer on question number 3, please. This is CMPD response to protocols. Your answer here, nothing has changed prior to this weekend with the announcement that ICE is coming to Charlotte, right? These are still the same procedures that have been in place from. Nothing has changed. We haven't altered our policy at CMPD. This is the way that it is, whether they're here now or when they eventually leave. Is that correct?
That is correct, Councilmember Peacock.
Okay. Can you talk about the National Defense Authorization, HR 6395, and you're part of the answer there? I've not heard about that. How does that reference in your answer? How does it interact with CMPD?
I included it just by way of background. There had been some questions about whether or not whether personnel would need to identify themselves and whether or not they needed to wear badges and that sort of thing. And so this spoke to if there was a defined civil disturbance by the federal statute. And so if it does seem ancillary, that was the background as to why I included it.
But that federal law requires that the individuals that are detaining or attempting to detain individuals in our city, they have to be wearing identification.
That is correct, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
And so CMPD is really the go-between between these two entities,
right.
Correct?
This, absolutely, and so this, you're right, it is not interpreted to be that CMPD would enforce this at all.
So CMPD's job is not to actually look to see whether the ICE individual has ID or not. Those individuals have to have it on them by law.
For those persons, that is correct.
Okay. My next question is on number 4. As you know, over the weekend I exchanged some text messages with Councilmember Ajmira, my favorite thing to do at Saturday night at 6:15. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. But I didn't see questions that we were doing about civil rights monitoring. What is behind question number 4? Is that occurring around the country where cities are responding in a civil rights manner? I'm trying to understand what you're you're telling us here?
I am telling you that we need to do some more research on what that exactly means, frankly.
Okay.
Councilmember Peacock, that in my research over the weekend, there are a couple of different ways you might go about that type of monitoring, and in conjunction, and I see Mr. Heath has gotten up from the seat, but we've been exploring from the manager's office what that may mean, and we'll have to come back to council with some options there. It's an evolving landscape. What you hear me saying there is, we think there are a couple of different ways, several different ways that we could gather data, and that may be helpful. And again, the manager's office, I have to say, they've been in great collaboration with the attorney's office.
Yeah, let me turn to Deputy City Manager Heath. The city may engage in data collection and administrative programs. I know this is a work in progress, but give me some idea where we're going with her statement there.
Number 4.
Number 4.
Councilmember Peacock, I think this is really more of an assertion of what could happen, right? There isn't anything that's currently underway to activate on this. This is just kind of establishing the guardrails and boundaries.
Okay, great. Another question for you, Ms. Attorney, and
Yes,
I'm really
sir.
glad to see you here. HB 318, your answers to question number 6. You were city attorney in the Guilford County and Greensboro area, so you saw the impacts of when this was passed on October 1st, 2025.
Yes.
What led up to this, and from a municipal law standpoint, what led up to this? Because obviously we know that the sheriff is a county function, not a city function.
Right.
You were in charge of the county and the city there as well, too.
Just the county, just the county.
Just the county?
Just the
Okay,
county,
I'm sorry.
yes,
But you had interactions with both. You were very familiar with both. So where do we stand right now as it relates to our activity between us and Mecklenburg County right now in the sheriff's department?
So it's my understanding from talking with my colleague at the county, certainly this did become law on October 1st, and so there had been a number of questions, certainly at the General Assembly, about the tracking and information that related to those who were charged with crimes and sharing that information with our federal partners. And so what this does, this House bill, it codifies that relationship and creates an expectation for the jail administrators, which falls under the county side of things, not, as you said, not the city, to manage those relationships. You see a clearly defined time frame, 48 hours from the time of release. So that creates an expectation for jail administrators, which often are dealing with overflowing numbers, on how they can manage the entrance and exit of persons inside the jail.
And the individuals that we're trying to address here are individuals who are not in the country legally. Is that correct? That was the purpose of HB 318.
It is to inquire as to the status of those persons, whether or not they are documented or not.
Okay. And Mr. Heath, how have we done in our conversations between CMPD and what Sheriff McFadden has been doing in this area here? Because one of the questions that I know my colleagues are asking is why Charlotte? And that's what the public's asking as well, too. I know we're not here to pass judgment necessarily on that, but one of the things that the state is responding to is areas in our state that are not actually enforcing federal law that we know exists. So that was part of the reaction that the state government gave in this Dillon ruled state to indicate to the sheriffs that you need to abide by the law. So where are we on that between us and the county?
That's something that we need to follow up on, Mr. Peacock. I don't have anything to share on that today.
Okay. Final question for you, Madam City Attorney, was just around question number 7 and number 8. These came directly from some items that Councilmember Ajmir shared with me from the city of Chicago. So those were executive orders that were taken in Chicago. We can't make executive orders here. The chief executive is Manager Jones, not Mayor Lyles. And then secondly, you've answered that we can't create a staging area on a city-owned property. Is that what your answer is on number 7? The answer is essentially no. Access or restrictions that would be consistent with city general practices. We can't discriminate as to what occurs on an actual city property.
Correct. Thank you for clarifying. I was hearing you say that we can't allow staging. We will be consistent.
Okay.
We will be consistent with the policies that exist, which is to say, if there's a law enforcement agency or any other agency that wishes to cooperate with the city, they would need to contact the city manager's office.
Okay. All right, and then the final question is just on number 9 for you as well too. You gave a very good answer on any risk to city-state relations, federal cooperation, or public safety. The genesis of my question was around, obviously, when the city takes an action in a Dillon Rule state, there could be an equal or opposite reaction at the state level. What's your reaction to that? What could possibly be if we were to take actions, either it be educational, I don't know what the motion's going to be here today, but any consequences at the state level that could occur from today?
Certainly, I'm going to answer this from the lens of the legal world, and there are some policy considerations that come along with that. Councilmember Peacock, as you're well aware, I would say that, as I stated in the written response, any action should be deeply and firmly rooted in the authorization that either exists through general statute, state law, federal law, and a marriage of the or combination of the two or three. It's hard to tell what may result as how the General Assembly may react, but I will tell you from a legal defense standpoint, if we are able to capture any sort of activity or program within a solid legal framework, that is always the goal, and that is the lens by which we will analyze any sort of educational efforts or any other activities. And as your city attorney, myself and my team will work closely with the manager's office to ensure that we are putting forth options for council that are defensible.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Peacock. Thank you for asking.
All right, folks, we are going to take another break here. Back in 2 minutes, we will rejoin this feed as Charlotte City Council speaks on what it could possibly do to push back against Border Patrol, as we see a lot of council members have expressed their displeasure with the operations underway in Charlotte right now. We'll be back. Welcome back to Live Impact News. We will indeed check back in with this in-progress meeting, Charlotte City Council hearing from a local group about demands regarding stronger pushback, if you will, against Border Patrol operations in Charlotte.
That we need to be able to support. So my question once again, everybody's saying the Dillon Rule state, we get that, sanctuary, all of that, I get all of that. What I'm speaking to today is our relationship with our state has nothing with the overreach of the government coming down and just acting like we don't have leadership that's competent, and that's not true. I would have to reject to that. So I'm going to ask, the overreach part, and does the Dillon Rule have anything to do with that? It's a matter of my opinion, and blame it on me. I'll take all the heat and all the smoke.
Thank you for the question. So, Councilmember Brown, the analysis that I leaned into with respect to Dillon's rule versus home state rule had to do with the questions about the comparison between Charlotte and Chicago and some of the other communities that have stronger mayoral powers. And so when we analyze the differences between Chicago and Charlotte, for instance, the ability to provide some of these executive orders that that your constituents are asking about, that is where we lean into North Carolina's status as a Dillon Rule state and being prohibited from issuing some of these executive orders that we may see in other parts of the country.
Thank you so much for that. So we moving forward with the motions on. We have 2 motions today.
So we'll do one at a time.
Right. So the first motion that I asked is for us to fund organizations that are working with the impacted communities with a sense of urgency. That is the first motion that I'm making. For us to be able to provide financial resources to organizations that are currently and actively doing the work for the impacted communities that are being targeted and addressed.
Second. Although I know Councilmember Mayfield has a question, followed by Councilmember Peacock.
So for now that we're in discussion, Attorney Fight in question 5, whether the city may allocate emergency funds, including ARPA, if eligible, to community organizations serving impacted residents. You have responded that for North Carolina cities, justifying expenditures of public funds requires demonstrating a public purpose that primarily benefits the community at large and explicitly avoids providing exclusive benefits or emoluments to certain private individuals' causes of special interest. For this motion for consideration, would this fall under our financial partners, of which there's a process for financial partners that can take 30 to 60 days? Or how would this motion even fall in the response that you gave to number 5? Legally, are we able, if this motion were to move forward based on the response to 5, legally, 1, are we able to do it? And then for the budget piece, do we have the ability to do it, and how quickly?
Councilmember Mayfield, each funding opportunity or request would need to be vetted for its legal public purpose and all of the matters that I outlined in question number 5. Now, I will say, because I am the new kid on the block and still learning some of our city processes, it would be appropriate to vet those through those avenues, and I'm looking at Deputy City Manager Heath over there to lean into that. But yes, we would want to analyze those requests because, again, the expenditure of those dollars is dependent upon them meeting those public purpose requirements outlined in the response.
So, Mr. Heath, for clarification, because our current process, again, could take 30 plus days. You have to actually apply. It goes through a process of vetting the organization, funding a number of things. What can you share for this motion?
So I think it's really what's the will of the committee and council, because there are choices, right? One choice would be to pursue a path that's very similar to
Hey,
your
folks,
traditional
just
financial
wanted to
partners.
let you know, as you watch the city council meeting, know that we're coming up close to the top of the hour. In live Impact News, we'll be switching over to the 4 p.m. newscast. If you want to continue to stream this meeting regarding Border Patrol operations, you can do so on our secondary channel. Just go to the main interface on WCNC Plus and select the secondary channel. Once again, primary channel at top of the hour will turn over to the 4 p.m. newscast. We'll send you now back in full to the City Council meeting on Border Patrol.
Identified, and those are moved forward without a competitive process, but still with a number of controls that would resemble a financial partner process. Do they have an active IRS determination letter? Have they filed a Form 990 affirmation that the programs would be non-exclusive in terms of access regardless of race, gender, national origin? There'd be a number of requirements that would still be imposed on a scenario like that. So it's really just a question, if it's the will of the committee and council, how fast do you want to go? The faster you want to go, the more we as a staff would need to do something different than the normal process.
And Director Harris,